All right, welcome back to episode 74 of the Bench powered by Wowhead, where we actually have conjured up some content. It has been weeks, if not months, where we've just been waiting, biding our time. But we have finally come up with an idea for content of this week, where we're going to be talking about the state of the Midnight Beta. Tarithal is going to be joining us to talk about Mythic Plus and add-ons. But before that, Growl, how have you been?
We killed Demencius this week, so things are things are improving. We finally got all of our new people down, and that we do it in one day, which is very nice. Back to normal farm stuff. I don't know. I'm so happy that there's actually content now. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I still didn't stream as much as I wanted to this week, mainly because I was watching MDI. It was actually crazy.
MDI was really good.
It was very, very wild. Let's just say. I know it's whatever. Either you watched it and you care or you didn't. But it was a very, very exciting MDI. But people weren't around as much for this weekend, and so I didn't get to play the beta as much. But I did get a few streams in. I did get to play some dungeons. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, it's just great to have content and be able to play WoW and contribute and not be a hermit where I don't do anything again. I don't know, what have you been up to, Squishy? You seem a lot more busy than me.
I mean, honestly, I actually found some time to hop on the beta and try things out, which is something I haven't really done in a while. I actually enjoyed the dungeons quite a bit, and so there were issues, and I think not mentioning them would be bad, but I had a lot of fun with the dungeons. A good time.
I've had this weird experience where I logged onto beta, I did the dungeons, I was like, okay, I'm actually having fun. I'm actually kind of building hype for Midnight. I'm like, wow, I'm actually pretty excited for Midnight. And then I log on to social media, and I only read negative things for as long as I'm on social media, and I'm just like, huh, maybe I'm cooked. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong here.
Everybody's just stuck in a sea of negativity right now. And I get a lot of portions. There's a lot of lack of trust right now in Blizzard, and I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of outspoken against this thing, and I think I'm kind of backing off a little bit and coming to terms a little bit more of I'm worried that everyone is that super doomer and so worried that things are going to be terrible. But I think a majority of it is just people wanting to voice their concerns about things that are important to them. People are very hyperbolic and they love to blow up on Twitter or whatever and social media. And I think that it's just people saying hey, UI stuff is very important. Don't F this up. Hey, I really love Mage. Don't F this up. I mean, that was one of the biggest pieces of news on Twitter this week, was that Fired Up put together a coherent long tweet that was serious. And it was oh no, Mage there must be something really wrong with Mage when Fired Up is tweeting coherent, serious things. You cannot get that guy to be serious about anything. So I think it's, I understand now, right? I'm not trying to say that everything is great with the game, and I do think that it's good that people are voicing their concerns with what's important to them.
Yeah.
I just don't want the average person, I'll have someone who is adjacent to WoW but doesn't really play that much or plays very casually, and they'll just DM me and they'll be like, oh wow, so this game is truly dying in this next expansion, huh? It's going to be over for you. What kind of job are you going to get after this? And it's just for those sorts, this is mainly for those sorts of people. I'm trying to alleviate the concerns and the fears, but I definitely like that people are voicing their opinion and holding Blizzard to as high of a standard as possible, because they should be.
Yeah. I think
and I've been playing hardcore. Growl Shots is level 49. About to do ZF probably tonight, so that's always been fun.
I heard a rumor that you've killed off Evade twice in Dead Mines.
I've only killed him once, but breaking news in the pod, Evade might have died again.
But yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of been weird because the people who are giving feedback and criticism, that stuff to me makes sense. There is now more than ever so many people who are just spouting purely negative stuff, not for being critical, but just because they don't like the game. The game doesn't mean the same thing as it used to for them. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense. If I was watching a TV show and season 2 was good and season 3 sucked, I wouldn't watch season 3. I would just have been like, all right, well, season 2 is good. I didn't like season 3. But for some reason with WoW people, they're all just painfully fucking addicted, so they have to just nonstop complain, not because they want the game to get better, but because they're just bitching.
It's a painful experience. I don't know, when you're watching a show and then the show starts to suck. I don't know, I feel that pain. I just turned the show off. I agree with you.
I just turned it off.
I still feel the pain. I feel the pain.
Like, what did you do whenever Game of Thrones last season was bad? I don't know.
Oh, come on. You Game of Thrones nerds watched that whole season 100%. There's no way people turned it off in the last season.
I mean, the one thing is just like there's so many voices right now, and I think for me, I started listening to some of those voices. I had to go try it out for myself just to see what was going on, and it was very different than what I was told this game was gonna be.
I've seen so many people, commenters and whatever, talk about the game and have not logged into the beta to play it. Please log into the beta, take an hour or two to set up your UI, go do the dungeons. You probably don't have to do the ray testing because the ray testing is limited time.
Hour or two to set up your UI.
But, well, that's how long it takes to fucking set up a UI.
I love World of Warcraft.
Yeah, you can't play the game out of the box. That's what's going on with this game. You know, take some time to actually set up your UI. There's some beta add-ons, I think, like Unhalted UI, Nef UI. Those are some of the ones that I've been seeing. Plater, I think, is new. Playnator for nameplate add-ons, both of those are pretty decent. Take some time, try to set up a UI, and go play and try to experience, like, what does the gameplay actually feel like for yourself, as opposed to only reading negative rhetoric on social media, because it is not closely aligned with how it actually feels to play the game, I will say.
Harkening that Ian post, I think everybody has things that are really, really different to them.
Yes.
And it is true. Like, the more that I think about that Ian post, the more I'm sort of agreeing with it, and that other people's like, everyone has very, very different concerns, right? Like, I was watching a video of a creator talk about the dungeons, right? It was like one of those random low view videos that pops up in my feed that I clicked on. And he was like someone that clearly isn't like super in depth in the Twitch community or whatever. And two of the things that he were very clearly very important to him about the dungeons, right? Number one, does the dungeon have a really fun lust pull in the beginning? That's like way up there in importance to this guy, right? Like, if the dungeon has a fun lust pull at the beginning, it's a good dungeon. Number two, how easy is it? The easier the dungeon, the better. There's no other factors, anything. Yes, right. And to be honest, I kind of vibe with that, right? Like, a lot of people who play the game, if you're trying to just slam some 12s and 13s to get your achievement every season and you play dungeons mostly for fun, if you came out and said, hey, these dungeons, you're pulling giant with lust and you do them easily, everyone's going to be like, hell yeah. You know, and then you listen to people like me and Dorky, like, well, actually, there isn't enough variety in the way that you can pull these mobs, and you know, this door separates, and this mob doesn't feel satisfying and worth the count to pull. Like, you don't care about any of these things, so I just think that, you know, we're stupid content creators and we're ruining the ecosystem for sure.
We do need a fourth host, though. We're gonna be getting that guy from Growl's YouTube.
Speaking of people who know what they're talking about, who are playing, joining us in the episode, as Tettle's already mentioned, is Tarithal. We just came off the interview with him, so we're going to jump into that. I think it was a banger. We talked about a lot of different stuff, from add-ons, if you're interested in, you know, you love the bench, you love us talking about add-ons, hearing somebody who's actually not us talk about it and what his concerns are and issues and how things are looking, how the dungeons are looking, boss design, the state of the beta, is it ready, blah, blah, blah. Unless you guys have anything to say, I think we should just jump into the interview.
Let's just get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So we needed somebody to talk about Mythic Plus and add-ons. So we brought in the big guns, Tarithal. We know we've mentioned him a few times the past couple of episodes talking about add-ons. He's also out here doing all these Mythic Plus dungeons. Welcome to the episode, Tarithal.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so for those who don't know who you are, give me the sales pitch. Who is Tarithal?
Tarithal is a degenerate that plays lots of World of Warcraft, that has lots of streamer friends that pump me up, and there's not really much special. I just play a lot. I do a lot of high keys. I kind of play all the classes, and I've been playing since vanilla, so I just know a lot about the game.
Oh my god, playing since vanilla.
Yeah.
I feel like you've been playing the game for a while, but then I knew of you like end of Shadowlands, early Dragonflight, when you started playing more seriously. and then you like got into Og, right? Like as soon as Og rose to power, I remember Tarithal rising to power. Not to like throw shade on you right away on your intro, because I know the crowd doesn't like Og, but that was the first I remember of you. Was like, hey, this guy like kind of knows what's going on, and he's playing Og. Let's invite him. And then I think that's when a lot of people started to know you. Is that right?
Yeah. I've got some
What'd
really
you-
bad news. AUG is extremely strong right now in beta. It might even be the top performing class.
Is it
It's like
really?
really, really good.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
Yeah, they're topping on bosses. They're topping overall in dungeons. I hear they're topping in raid. They're just really, really good.
What hero talent?
It's Scale Commander in dungeons. I don't know about raid, but
Okay.
probably Scale Commander.
Dude, I
Yeah.
saw their Apex talents. I mean, I remember when I read their Apex talents where they get like haste or whatever for those Guardians that are out. I was just like, wow, this looks way more interactive than most of the other Apex talents. Okay, so anyways, we're gonna talk about Mythic Plus. We're gonna talk about add-ons. Maybe we'll talk about class balance a little bit if Tarithal has some insights as to that. Tarithal, okay, I don't want anybody to sway his opinion. What are your unfiltered thoughts on what's been going on with Mythic Plus and in the 4 dungeons we've seen thus far?
Yeah, so I think as a general rule, it's just more difficult to parse information. You spend a lot more time looking at the UI elements, whether it be trying to figure out which name you're looking at on a nameplate, which nameplate you're actually clicking on, because everything is just kind of moving or it's stacked up, or even the raid frames kind of determining who has dots, who needs help, who doesn't need help. You spend a lot of time right now just trying to filter information on your actual UI versus playing the game. But the dungeons themselves, especially the returning dungeons, feel very easy. For example, Algathar Academy, there's basically no one shots. We've been playing a lot of beta. I've gotten into some pretty good groups. We even we timed an 18 Algathar, and the entire time there weren't any one shots. Like everything just, you could just go through the entire dungeon. The Croft mechanic that used to stack up over time, that's gone. The Veximus overlaps where you'd have to soak orbs and mana bombs and the pushback. Just, it didn't seem like any of that was really happening anymore. And on top of that, most of the lethal casters that, you have to interrupt or stop the cast or else everyone just gets one shots and died. Like all of that stuff just seems to be gone. So some of these dungeons are just kind of, you just walk through the dungeon, you get to do big damage, kind of turn your brain off. And as long as you pull efficiently, you just get through the dungeon and have a good time and time it. But it's just like, going through the nameplates. And if there is an important cast, it's very difficult right now to target the right mobs and, handle the pulls. If your tank needs help with something, it's very difficult to react to those situations with the current state of the add-ons in the UI.
I really love nameplates on the first pull of Alchemy.
This isn't even the Ellismere clip. The Ellismere clip like went viral or whatever of him trying to fight this boss or whatever. But one thing I wanted to talk about, just because Squishy might be able to come in here to understand. So I've been told that throughout this week there have been a significant amount of tuning or changes done to some of the dungeons, specifically Pit of Sauron and Seat. Do you guys know what exact specifics? Because I did a ton of testing at the beginning of the week and then didn't do as much this weekend because I was watching MDI. Do you guys know exactly what was done or any changes or anything?
There was a post on it. I will find it.
Okay, so to summarize real quick while he's looking, if he can find it. Initially, early on, some of the dungeons were actually terrifying, specifically Seat and Pit. With casters with AoE damage, and it was like, oh no. I was ready to eat my shoe about the changes, because it was the most, there's Bolt Slop and way too many casters, and what is Blizzard doing? But already they started rolling out hot fixes and pruning some abilities and removing some stuff. And so just so the viewers understand, you may have heard a lot of different stuff about the dungeons, and that's specifically because already they're rolling out changes very early in the week. So I kind of wanted to just put those on the table and mention them now so that people aren't as confused with, when he's oh, the dungeons are easy. It's well, Algathar specifically was easy. Pit was a nightmare when it first came out, but then then they nerfed stuff. So anyway, did you find it?
Yeah, I did. So for Pit of Sauron, they reduced the overall density of the dungeon. I've heard they removed a lot of casters from certain packs. And they reduced the timer and they reduced the count required. They removed a bolt. Just one mob, the cadavers, got their bolt removed. So just straight up gone. That's really then there's just some damage and health tuning, which is fine. Then Seat, got also reduced pack size, which is also good. And that's basically it. So
There
just reduce the pack
were
size.
Yeah, there were some mobs next to the second boss that would feed your tank, and at the start of the week that was a big issue, and it seems like those are gone. I haven't seen those towards the
Yeah.
end of the week.
I mean, I saw. Okay, did you guys see a Quasi video? There was a Quasi video talking about basically what's been going on with Mythic Plus on the beta. Did you guys have a chance to watch it?
So
Yeah.
I actually haven't watched it. I heard it's a good one, but also I know that they fixed a lot of those things already. Is why I might not. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you said you watched it?
I want to comment on it a little. I think the nameplates is totally fair. I think Heddles was going to talk about nameplates originally, but these things are an issue still.
Oh, they're awful.
There's so many issues of like nameplates that just don't like. The main thing is the nameplates just don't show where the mobs are, right? Like looking at this viral Ellesmere clip, like all the mobs are not under the ground right now, right? Like that is not where the mobs are. And I think this is probably a top priority for them to fix, I would imagine, because right now one of the major problems with nameplates is a lot of people use them to determine where mobs are, right? Like so that you can find out if you have room and stuff like that. But there's a huge problem right now where nameplates just don't show you where mobs are. And like Tettles, I have this picture here. If you want to pull it up, wait, where'd it go?
This one in seat. Oh, different
there you go. Yeah, this one is seat. I just went twice. And it's just like from my spot, like yesterday, this is just like one pull. In the left, there are 4 mobs in that pack, and there's 1 nameplate in red circle. There's just 3 nameplates missing. In orange, the 2 nameplates are below the mobs instead of above the mobs, as they should be. And then in green, you have 3 mobs there, and the nameplates are even further below the mobs.
Yeah.
And so on this point, like, I completely agree. Like, nameplates are an issue.
Tarithal, can you explain what they did? Because this is not like this on live. Like, stacking nameplates, you can go through and mess around with CVARs if you wanted to change your padding, and they never actually fall through the ground. Was this something that was propped up by add-ons? Because I feel like this is just the base game being bad.
So I'm not really speaking as an authority on that, but I will say on live we do have access to extra CVARs for some of the nameplate padding, and so you can move nameplates around just by altering essentially those CVARs, which you have access to via like advanced interface options.
Okay.
And you don't really seem to have access to those anymore. So I don't know if they're intentionally restricting those or if they actually built their nameplates from the ground up and just got rid of that system altogether. It's kind of difficult to tell, but I know that's how add-ons do it on live, right? They essentially manipulate those fields that we have access to.
Okay.
You want the Growl Blizzard Shill Copium answer here?
Okay.
I think this could be potentially a good thing. It's a good path.
What? These nameplates in the ground. All right.
Hear me out. I'm cooking, okay? I feel like there's some sort of like prioritization or like understanding going on behind the scenes for the mobs. So, for example, if you look at the Ellesmere clip again, right? It's all the like shitter mobs or whatever, like the tiny mobs you don't care about or bouncing wherever. But the important mob is like staying the same and it's not moving at all, right? It's not like all the nameplates are doing that. It's just the bad mobs. And what I think is happening is like they're trying to create. Everyone's shaking their head. I'm like half joking about this, obviously, but I hope that what's going on is that they're trying to create some way to differentiate important nameplates and not important ones, and then make right. That's what I hope. That's what I hope is going on here. I don't want everything to be like a shuffle everywhere, but like to me, like there's another feature in the game. I don't know if you guys have experimented with it yet, but it's like hide lesser nameplates or something, or like minions, and it makes the nameplates really tiny and it doesn't show their name. Did you guys see that at all, or in any of the dungeons?
I wish I could, but I didn't see.
Yeah, I wish I could find a clip of it. Maybe I'll dig it up when I stop yapping. But I feel like maybe there's something to this. Like, I hopefully that they get this figured out. Obviously, look, I don't expect this to go to live, right? Like, I don't think that's that much copium. Okay, I don't think it's that much. Okay,
I don't think it's that much copium to expect that.
So
it gets
what
fixed.
what I hope is that they're figuring out some ways to like, how do we take the lesser unimportant nameplates to move them aside so that it's easier to decipher and select the important one. is what this is a byproduct of. That's why. Well, you asked her all the question of like, what is going on in live? Why is this happening and it doesn't happen in live? And that's what I'm hoping it is that they're sort of like building a system to help you differentiate important and non-important nameplates.
So there is a small portion of that. There is apparently a setting in the options where you can change the size of the nameplates for things marked as minions or minor mobs, and the ads on the tree boss are marked as minor mobs. So it downscales, but that doesn't apply to everything.
The issue from what I've been seeing with the nameplates, I don't know what it is from like a programming level, but the nameplates are like magnetized to other nameplates, and they don't, like Squishy said, they don't show you the position of the mob, which is like arguably the most important part of the nameplates, to the point where I'm watching Tarithal's like VOD back right here on the background. And look, the nameplates, he doesn't have stacking nameplates turned on because stacking nameplates are literally unusable. And you still really can't tell where the mobs are. It's just like a clump. Like there's literally just a clump of nameplates on top of one another.
Yeah. Yeah, nameplates aren't great, but
yeah,
I forgot.
They're really bad. I will 100% admit that the nameplates on beta are like terrible right now. But also like, so is the damage meter. I don't know. I guess we can talk about the damage meter a little bit too. But
holy fuck,
this is like the first iteration of them rolling it out, right? Like, again, if I will fully admit that if we go into midnight and the damage meter and the nameplates are at this state, then I was completely wrong and Blizzard has failed. But I just don't really think that's going to be a thing.
I think we need to point out as well, like, there's people like, this is just the beta, of course it's going to be, like, bad, and, there's room, they're going to improve it and stuff like that. And there's other people like, this is going to be how it launches. Like, we're just giving feedback here. This is our experience with it. This is where they could improve. Like, Blizzard is going to do what they want to do with it, and they have asked for feedback. And this is where the feedback is coming from,
It's really fun on the beta right now to try to, like, min-max your damage. Like, for example, if I'm playing a Warlock, I can just keep my Burning Rush on, and I'm just doing 10k extra damage for the entire roll. Or if I want, I can play my Preservoker and I give someone Time Dilation and just give them essentially Power Infusion, because that shows up on the meter too.
No way. Dude,
no, it's true.
A Blood DK was literally topping the overall meter earlier today, and I was like, what the fuck is even going on? I looked at the log and it like looked completely normal. I still have no idea why he was topping on the DPS meter.
There's a couple issues with it. One, friendly fire damage counts as your damage.
Yep.
So like there's some abilities where you blow up in an AoE.
The mana rift from the blueberries and alg.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
Self damage and enemy healing. There's the subjugator in Seed of the Triumvirate heals enemies while there's a healing absorb on you. That all counts as your healing. So if you want to top the HPS meter, just leave that absorb on you. You'll be fine. There's also apparently Zeph told me that there's a bug on the Saldahar encounter in the raid where the damage meter is just wrong. Like, for everybody, it's just wrong. It's only that encounter is the only time, but that encounter is just wrong for some reason. So, like, oh boy, do they have a lot of work out.
Yeah, dude, I saw you made a post based off this video from Zorthus. I was like, this guy,
it's a good video.
This guy makes the most dog shit thumbnails I've ever seen. All of his I actually really like Zorthus's content. He does
his content's great.
He does like he did for this for the last PTR cycle. He does like weekly recaps about all the stuff that's happening. I really like his content. If you're trying to like stay in the know with what's going on, thumbnails maybe could use a little bit of work. I thought his breakdown of why the damage meter is cooked, it was spot on too.
It's crazy thumbnail shaming.
Dog, he put a fucking emoji in his thumbnail that's just a thumbs down and a screenshot of the damage meter.
What you're saying is I can see in the future, and our thumbnail is going to be something with a thumbs down emoji next to it.
The state of midnight beta.
All right.
So Tarithal, I mean, do you have any ideas about like what's going on with the damage meter? Like, is it just Blizzard needs to fucking fix it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any real insight into it. Just abilities are appearing on it that shouldn't be. So I don't know if they're hooking it into their combat log and just like certain abilities are just interacting with the combat log strangely, or if they just built it from the ground up. It's impossible to tell.
Why doesn't it show specs? Why is it classes?
I think there is a setting for that. It just isn't working yet.
So live on air, there is now a blue post just launched about the damage meter, and those guys are going to react while I do some quick work. Enjoy.
What?
Oh
Feedback
boy.
damage meters. Hold on.
Oh boy. All right.
Let me see if I can find it.
I just linked it to you.
Hello. We have some thoughts for you who are testing the damage meter functions. It's something we consider to be in heavy ongoing development, and we rolled it out when we did because we didn't want to do in-game testing without it. Yeah, thank you. The damage meters in beta are far from their final form. There's a lot of custom handling that the damage meter add-ons and sites like Warcraft logs use to consolidate damage sources from spells like Whirlwind or Immolation Aura into a single event, and we'll have similar handling in place in a few weeks. So basically what they're saying is like MO Aura would show like 5 different damage sources, even though it was all basically sourced from the same MO Aura, there'd be like different talents that would interact with it. And so it would show up as a bunch of different events. I remember I was looking at the Blood DK who was topping our damage meter earlier today, and he had like 7 different instances of Death Strike. It was kind of weird. Currently, several encounter mechanics and self-damaging sources are being picked up by damage meters. These are bugs and are being fixed. Based on feedback, we're also going to adjust how damage from pets and guardians is sorted, with the goal of those being intermingled in the list from most to least damage dealt instead of always sorting to the bottom. Okay, yeah, so Beast Mastery Hunter had this thing where pets auto-sorted their damage to the bottom of the meter, which, conventionally details or most damage meter add-ons have sorted it as like highest DPS, no matter if it's sourced from your pet or from you. There are also a lot of display settings already available in options, but we're iterating on and improving the formatting of your details. An example of this in a future beta update, the default damage done view will show both total damage and DPS side by side. So there's like the issue with the damage done didn't show DPS basically at all is what they're saying. We're also working on an enemy damage taken breakdown so you can see how much damage each enemy and encounter took from each individual player. This is several weeks out.
That's really good.
Yeah, we're also working on a death recap functionality because it's important to have clear understanding what caused the death. Thank God.
Yep, I was like ready to complain about that when we talked about the damage meter.
Yep.
To me, that was one of the things where it's like, but again, this is what I hope this testing period is for. Is it extremely painful to do these dungeons without these things? Yes. To anyone who's done beta, usually they're not working anyway when the beta comes out. But like the deathlog was one where the combination of doing a new dungeon plus not having a deathlog was like, how am I supposed to learn what's happening to me? Like, we're just dying and, like, what the heck is going on? So I think this is a really, really good sign that they're acknowledging that, yeah, these are dog shit and we're fixing these. Do we take their word for it and hope that they'll have it ready? I hope so. I hope, like, all of these features are ready. Like, in my opinion, a deathlog or, like, a more detailed way, the in-game thing that tells you, like, how it, like, pops up in the middle of your screen, like, the death recap or whatever, that is, like, so bad. It is so bad. Like, I think they should just get rid of that, and then, like, if you, well, maybe, I don't know. It's so bad. Get rid
bake
of it.
The damage meter one. Bake the one that they're making on your damage meter into the death recap.
Yeah, exactly. Or that too. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, I guess once they have one that's not terrible, why wouldn't they just show that? I guess I'm just trying to think of like how it would work for like, let's say you're a total noob and you're like fighting. You know what I mean? Like that might be a little bit more overwhelming, but maybe. Yeah, I guess I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I'm sure I'm not sure they'll do a good job, but the fact that they acknowledged it this early that there's no death feature is very, very good.
Crazy timing.
Yep.
Does this is this alleviate all the problems that you have, Tarithal?
With the damage meter?
Yeah.
I think it's a step in the right direction. Like, I think the enemy damage taken. So the top players are going to kind of do that work and filter through that data anyways, right? Like we formed these good habits of knowing who's doing the priority damage. We've figured out systems of doing kicks and stops. All those kind of things that we've historically been doing, we're going to continue to do. It's just, the in-game systems that provide that information have gotten worse. And so it's actually probably separating, the top end players from kind of like the average players that just want to go in and do a dungeon because the systems that they have in place right now are really, really restrictive in how that information is presented. So I definitely see this as a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, with prior to these changes, it's one of those things that logging was always better than trying to look at things through a damage meter. The damage meter was good because it was, in most situations, just a little bit more convenient. And now, as it turns out, with the current damage meters, they're unusable, and logs are the only way that you can actually get accurate sources on anything.
Yeah. Again, I'm just gonna keep being the Blizzard chill here because this is my job. I mean, has anyone been around for any other betas? Like this always happens on beta, literally, even with details. is that you go on a beta. Details is like all the add-ons are messed up. Nothing is working. You need to use logs to figure out what's going on. Like, this is how it always works, right? Like, is the details team probably a lot more advanced and like going to fix their shit a lot quicker? Yes. Right? Like, there's no doubt that details is much better than what Blizzard is going to come out with, especially in the very first iteration. But I mean, again, we're hoping for convenience here. We're hoping that Blizzard at least makes it to the finish line, and then everything is built in game, and you don't need to worry about. I'm interested to see like how it works with patches and stuff. Like, for example, let's say once they get it working, right? Is Blizzard gonna like be breaking their own add-ons over and over again? Like, you know how add-ons break, sometimes with new patches or updates. Like, is Blizzard just gonna roll out like 11.2 and then the patch comes out and then details is broken again? Like, now we gotta wait for Blizzard to fix their own details, or are they gonna like be vigorously testing all this stuff and then making sure it works as soon as the patch comes out? Because that could be nice if they actually do that.
Yeah, there are a lot of funny bugs that are going on right now. Like, for example, at the start of the week, Evokers didn't have access to their essence. It was just throwing Lua errors. Like, the Blizzard client was throwing Lua errors for that. And then, like, earlier today, I tried to respond to someone in a whisper, and just the Blizzard system threw a Lua error. I couldn't even respond to someone in a whisper.
Yeah. I want to give some pushback to something that Growl said, though. Like, your comment about this happens at the very beginning of beta cycles with with all add-ons. The differentiator is I actually hold Blizzard to a higher standard than I hold add-on developers to the point where I don't, like, if an add-on is broken at the beginning of a patch or an add-on is broken at the beginning of a beta cycle, I find that to be fine. Where with Blizzard, I don't find that to be fine, right? Because it is their product. It is like, it's who is the burden on, and it's on them now. And like, they can't really have things be broken for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it's not this beta, right? Like, going forward, it needs to be fixed at this time, right?
Yes.
But this, like, they're literally still building it, right? Like, there's just a bunch of people freaking out in their office, running around trying to get this thing done before the game launches. So that's the only reason I give them a pass now. And I agree that, like, if we go into, whatever the last expansion that I should know is called beta and it's broken again, that's going to be like a red flag. But surely the game's going to be fully dead at that point. Everyone will have quit because of add-ons, but then they'll move it to console, and then millions of people will start playing again because of console by then. So we'll worry about that when it happens.
The two things that I think they didn't explicitly mention, but I still think they are going to do. The first is the second you relog or zone out, the damage meter clears.
Oh, that is troll. Literally so troll.
Like, I know it was mentioned in Zarthus' video, but like, the second you slash abandoned vote and you get kicked out in 5 seconds, your damage meter's just wiped. So you better look at what you had then. The second thing is how it counts the number of interrupts you do, but it doesn't tell you what you interrupted. It just counts the number of times your spell kicked. And like, so when you click on the more details of like, I had 20 interrupts, it shows you used Mind Freeze 20 times. Because that's really useful information for you to know.
Do you know if it makes sure it knows that you kicked anything?
Or did it know that you pressed interrupt?
That would be amazing.
I mean, I haven't tested that, but I assume it does. But yeah, it's just really funny that, like, you got 6 dispels, Tarithal. What did you get? Oh, I don't know. I just used my dispel 6 times and dispelled something. Good work.
Did they acknowledge the resetting log in this post? I don't see it.
No, they didn't.
No.
That's not
Those
good.
are the two things they didn't address, but I assume they will get to it, considering they said, like, these will be fixed in the coming weeks. I think they know. This very clearly targets a certain video with points, I feel like, and I have a feeling somebody watched that video and had to respond to the majority of this.
It's good. I mean, these are good changes.
I wish they would watch my videos. Oh, wait, I don't make videos.
Okay, so I brought it up earlier. So that Quasi video, he had 2 points that were made towards the UI, stacking nameplate functionality and damage meters. I felt like those were both, fairly valid. The obvious, very obvious complaints, even this, to the fact that Blizzard's already trying to address the damage meters not working is more than proof that they were 100% correct. He did have 2 points in that video that I thought were incredibly controversial from my own play pattern, and I actually did not think that I agreed with what he was saying. Infinite bolt spam was one that he said very frequently to the point where it was almost a buzzword. I strongly disagreed with his take on infinite bolt spam in the Mythic Plus dungeon that I've done so far. I've done all the dungeons. I thought Pit of Sauron prior to the changes maybe was a little bit tough in terms of how many mobs were casting. there's not really that many mobs that are spamming bolt. Like, there are casters, but you're not pulling, 5 caster mobs. It's not like the beginning of Priority Sacred Flame where every mob's a caster. There's nothing that's even like that in there. And so the infinite bolt spam comment, it almost made me think that he was trying to ask Blizzard to change how spam caster mobs worked or something like that. Because I don't feel like there's
Pit
actually
was pretty bad. I think Pit was pretty bad.
But he wasn't even talking about
Tarithal?
Pit. He was talking about Skyreach and Seat.
So
And
I think,
Seat was bad too.
I think Skyreach actually owns right now. I think that dungeon's very good, and I think it's fair. And I think the timer is actually a little bit too lenient in there. I think the bosses are fun. I think the trash is very fair. I do agree that Seat and Pit, I think it's probably 50% is just learning like what you can and can't pull together. But that's always the case, right? Every single beta we go through that. And it's more difficult right now, more than ever, because we can't color code nameplates to know what all the mobs are, just like at a glance. And so people just have to go through that exercise of learning exactly what you can and can't pull together. But I actually think that Pit specifically has more of a dispel issue than an actual.
I agree with that. Yeah,
issue.
like Pit, the stacking poison is it? No, it's not a poison. It's a disease. There's a stacking disease that goes on the tank. It is a required disease to spell in that place. That place is insane.
Yeah, I think it's curse dispel requirement, disease dispel requirement, and then there's a lot of dispels, just magic dispels on top of it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's a lot going on in there.
I think you had a good point, Tettles, in saying that maybe bolt spam isn't quite the correct term, but I think it's mechanic spam in those 2 dungeons, right? Where it's like, oh, there's a guy that does AoE, and there's a bolter, and there's the dispel, and there's this, and it's like, they hopefully address some of that in removing the mobs. I want to do some more testing on those dungeons. I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. Like, I barely even realized they had changed them. I was like, this is kind of easy. But I think, initially those 2 dungeons were pretty bad. I would agree. I didn't watch the video, but I would agree with him that Seat and Pit were both a little bit of overload. I agree that I liked Skyreach. However, I didn't do the last boss because the servers crashed, so I've heard that the last boss is scary. And I had a group that was very well organized for the Phoenix boss, and I heard Squishy was having problems with the Phoenix boss.
Dude. Yeah, just a little. But before we go into the bosses, I want to there's this term being thrown around in the community right now called bolt slop.
Yep.
And
good job, Dorky.
I hate it. I literally hate it so much.
I also hate it. Like, I've played it and didn't find it that bad. Like, are there casters that spam cast bolt? Yes.
Yes.
But I also think these casters are an archer with benefits. Like, realistically, I looked at the damage taken to health pool ratios of season 3, like our current season, to what is on the beta right now. First thing, cast times. All cast times of bolters are 2.5 seconds in Midnight. Right now, in season 3, they're either 2.5 seconds or 1.5 seconds. Looking at you, Holy Smite. Fuck you.
Goddamn priests.
So, like, at a start, like, the cast times are already slightly longer. In addition, like, comparing, like, what ratio of your health pool to the enemies, like, damage done, it's nerfed by, like, 10%. Like, it looked to be about 27% on a 12 versus, like, a 37% damage bolt on, like, currently. So it looks like the damage of bolters is also just nerfed.
It seems like ambient damage to me. And more often than not, something will hit you, and then you'll kind of rot damage for a couple seconds, opposed to just flat out getting one shot.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's fine. I wouldn't like bolters and archers. I think this fits more in line of their vision of what they want it to be, which is essentially triage damage, where an archer shoots you, and then the healer has to be like, oh, I have to heal this guy up before he gets shot again, or before the AoE comes in or something. And I actually feel like this does it a lot better.
I would have to look at the numbers on it, but I also feel like the density of caster mobs, not even necessarily just bolters, but caster mobs in general, feels way lower right now. And it's not that they don't exist, right? You know, the end of Alg Academy has 2 invokers, but they fucking removed most of the casters out of Alg Academy. The only other caster mobs in that entire dungeon are those books in the Veximus area. That they removed all the other casters. They're literally just books and battle axes, which... Okay, maybe they shouldn't have been battle axes. I don't know if we should have just made it 100% tank damage, but they removed the casters to more to the point, right? And it's like, I think that the density of caster mobs is way lower right now. And it's like, I saw this Quasi video and he's talking about infinite bolt spam, and I was just like, am I playing a different game? Because I don't feel like this is true.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the point I was making, where you just have to learn like what you can and can't pull together, because I mean that situation can happen right now on live, right? You can just pull the wrong 2 packs together, and all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with casters.
Yeah, you just lose, right? Like
there's a Rookery 3 pack, for example. Like,
right.
Oh yeah. I guess that there maybe is a wider point of like, should mobs who cast Bolt as their filler ability have a cooldown after it is stopped or interrupted? I guess there's maybe a different different question there, or the cast time could go longer than 2.5 seconds. But like to me, it's I don't know. It's just not, there's not that many more. There's a lot less bolters now.
I found, honestly, like the kick lockout change, I actually pretty thoroughly noticed as well. I think like you kick something and it just walks in for a good amount of time. Like, I think that's fine, but I think the biggest change, except for Pit of Sauron is the exception, is bolters are usually not combined with other kicks.
That's
like
correct.
There's either 2 bolters or 1 bolter or 2 bolters on their own with melee mobs, or there's a priority kick, 1 or 2 priority kicks where like, you know, like cast this big AoE that you want to kick, but no bolters. So I don't think bolters are overwhelming right now. I really don't, other than a Pit of Sauron.
Maybe Tarithal has a different opinion because he's played the dungeons more than all of us. I think he's done the most runs out of all of us here. Are there any mobs that actually require a kick rotation? Because I feel like I haven't really found them yet.
So I'm trying to think if there are any like
last boss of Skyreach, I think, has a kick rotation. Maybe
yeah,
it's like a 2 kick rotation.
There's a priestess at the end of Skyreach that has a very important kick that you must kick, but for the most part, I can't think of any mob that has like filler bolts and then like a really important cast and then filler bolts and then a really important cast. They probably exist, but
the Lich has a 2-person kick rotation, I think, that blasts your tank.
In Sauron? Okay.
I think it's a 2-person kick.
It seems like every kick is just like a mob will just cast one thing over and over. I can't really think of any like important kick, quote unquote. I'm sure they exist. I just haven't noticed them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and it's just like I feel like the amount of times that I'm interrupting. This would be an interesting point. I mean, I know Sense has done data scraping for other seasons where the amount of stops and interrupts that need to be pressed. I would be interested to see how many interrupts actually need to be pressed in these dungeons now, because I feel like, you know, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel intuitively, like just playing through the dungeons, like there's a lot less mechanical overload in regards to kicks. Now, there is for some reason, and I've never really agreed with this in Mythic Plus, but Blizzard has gone in the direction of every single mob needs to have an important ability. And this is still true in all of these dungeons, where every single mob at least does one or multiple things. And I wish we had more filler mobs and less like every mob has a thing that's going on. But, you know, it's kind of the state of what Mythic Plus is in 2025.
Yeah, I can't really think of outside of maybe it's one of the mobs they removed, but in Seat, every once in a while you get a dot that didn't really seem telegraphed, and then you would just die because you didn't notice. You don't have anything shouting in your ear anymore.
Yeah,
that seems kind of rare now. Usually something charges at you, or you know,
there's
you get
a circle.
hit with something. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I did die a few times in Seat though earlier in the week. That it just kind of shocked me because I didn't see any like notification. But
I think they could work on visual clarity a little bit in Skyreach, but beyond that, everything was. Yeah, I think Skyreach has a little bit of a visual clarity problem, particularly on the first boss.
Oh God.
Yeah, that, you know, it was clearly made in 2000.
Lines of wind.
It was clearly made in 2015. I really don't like the mobs in Seat that knock me up. Those mobs are really cringe, but yeah.
Oh yeah, the bouncy house, like after second boss or whatever. I remember.
Yeah.
And what's funny is they don't target healers, and they might not target melee. I don't remember. I just remember our 2 range players were just in the air for the entire pull, and our Shadow Priest is just doing like literal tank damage because they can't cast any abilities.
In Legion, we literally just full skipped those mobs. You would run around the side of them and never pull any of them. And it's one of those things I was like, oh my God, this is homage to how I used to play this.
Yeah,
dungeon.
I think on the topic of Bolt Slop or like mechanics again, I feel like it's really hard because there's a lot of different things going on. right? Like there's new dungeons, which is always hard.
Yes.
There's getting used to the UI. Like even if you did have your add-ons, like it's still different from how it is in live. You have the UI changes and different information is like less available or whatever. So there's so many different factors that I think it's hard to kind of pinpoint, right? Like it's kind of interesting to how all of our opinions differ so much, and then also to Quasi's, right? If some people are like, there's way too many bolts, there's less bolts, there's more density, there's too many dispels. Like I think this is it's very turbulent environment to try and figure out exactly what's going on. But I think we do need to voice that feedback though, that like was like be careful. Like making the dungeons too simple is going to be okay, right? Like numbers tuning is numbers tuning. Like
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about like one thing I think that they've always ramped up over the last like 3 expansions ever since Shadowlands was the amount of like unavoidable ambient damage that the mobs do, right? Like it seems like they really wanted healers to have to heal and like to put lots of mobs that do damage so that you're not just like DPSing for a pull. And in those cases, sometimes those archers or those bolters feel like it's a mandatory kick, right? Like if there's ambient damage going on and there's bolters, like this happens a lot in Priory, right? Like that's part of the reason that Priory you notice these bolters so much versus Arakara, which has a similar number of bolters, but you only really notice them when you're fighting like, very heavy group damage as well. And I just think that we do need to make sure that we point out that feedback and make sure that they're careful there with not overloading with mechanics on this very first season where, people will get frustrated of like, okay, this is a new dungeon, so it's hard. On top of my UI has changed, on top of like Blizzard threw too many mechanics in here, and it's like they should definitely go easy here, I think.
I think that Tarithal's point though of like, if you don't know what the dungeons do, it makes it really hard to actually assess where the difficulty lies. That I feel like that's almost doubly true. The way that I actually learn the dungeons more often than not on PBEs or on betas and PTRs is it normally involves me getting in voice with 4 other title range players
who know the dungeon.
No, not that they know the dungeon, but we kind of teach each other. Somebody notices a mechanic works a specific way. Somebody else notices a different mechanic works a specific way. And then you just like, it's like a culmination of knowledge, and you come up with strategies on like how to actually, like what actually is the strategy for trying to do this specific thing. And it's just like, it's knowledge that builds on top of one another.
I think the one thing regarding bolters as well that is probably forgotten about at this point, because the focus has been on add-ons, is the mobs don't target the same person, right? Like
correct.
That was a pretty big change, and I think that's probably why it feels so different. Because despite there being 2 bolters a pack, maybe they don't hit as hard. Maybe they do. My math says they don't. But if they're not double targeting you, if you're not getting double fireballed and holy smite, you've never experienced a Priory. You just sometimes just die because you got 2 bolters on you at the same time. But if they remove the kill potential, bolters are just ambient damage that needs to happen because healers exist.
It does seem like ambient damage. I know for me specifically, I'm a very visual person. If I'm playing, for example, if I'm playing like Hearthstone Battlegrounds and I'm playing duos with friends and they like tell me to pass this card with this name, I always have to ask what the card does because I never look at names, right? Like I see a picture of a card and I just functionally know what it does. And I kind of do that same thing in M+, where the colored nameplates has always kind of like assisted me in knowing what's going on in a poll. So to see a name of a mob and it has like 3 different names within the name, it has like 3 generations back, it has like its grandfather's name, then it has like something else, and then it has like, what it actually is, like a cutthroat or something like that. And so if you say kick the cutthroat, me having to scroll through 3 different names that look exactly the same to find the cutthroat, that's extremely difficult for me personally. And that's something that I'm personally not looking forward to and kind of hope they have some option of tweaking.
Just coloring nameplates?
I heard something about there being like a way to change nameplates. Did you guys? Was it from one of you guys? I heard something about like
it.
Yeah.
So basically, one of the nameplate devs had a contact or something and said they're looking at reordering names to put the important parts at the start of the name.
Yeah, that would be good.
Which I think helps everybody. So instead of having, I don't know, what is it? Like it's something cutthroat. It'll say cutthroat first, and then it'll have
cutthroat or
whatever. Venture Co. a warrior, venture comb mage, and you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You could pull a pack and it can have 3 different bilge waters in it, right? Before you actually get to the important part of the name. And so if you're cycling through nameplates, it could be like very difficult in that 2.5 seconds that you get to actually find the mob that you need to target.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about dungeon complexity a little bit. So how have you felt about the reworks of old dungeons like Pit, Seat, and Skyreach, Tarithal?
I've kind of talked about Elgathar already. I think Elgathar, it's fun, right? It's like you just go in, do big damage. Nothing really seems that lethal anymore. The bosses have some healing checks, but other than that, they're just kind of, you just do damage, do mechanics, and it feels good. Skyreach, I think the bosses are really, really fun. The first boss, obviously, we've talked about it. It's kind of hard to see some of the mechanics, but everything is just kind of, you do a set of 5 mechanics and then it repeats. It's very predictable. It's very telegraphed. And they're fun. I think they're fun.
Okay.
Somebody will be falling off of that first boss of Skyreach.
Oh yeah,
I fell off today.
yeah,
there we go.
Somebody,
Case
1 out
point.
of 4 people will fall off on that boss, and then you look at your screen, you're like, yeah, I know which one.
Sorry, keep going.
I want to say, what do you, Tarithal? I feel like the boss design was like kind of fun. Like it was surprisingly good for older bosses, right?
Yeah. I'm a very big vibes gamer. Like if something looks good, I always liked what's that dungeon? We always call it the green dungeon, Evergrove or whatever it's called.
Everbloom.
Everbloom,
yeah. I just like dungeons that are like bright and I like the scenery in Skyreach, so that alone kind of sells me on the dungeon. But I think the bosses themselves are just good. Like they're telegraphed, they're fair. Like, and I think that's just the theme of this season so far. The bosses all seem fair. Like if you mess something up, it's like, oh, I could have just done this better, right? And I think that's just good, generally good. That all the dungeons are.
It felt like a lot of the bosses were like, I feel like it's a good boss when, let's say, you have an experienced player and an inexperienced player walking up to the boss. If the good player can explain to the inexperienced player within 2 sentences what they need to do, I feel like it's a good boss.
Yeah.
Tettles, what was that clip?
So can the good players in chat hypothetically explain to the chatters, how do you not get knocked off on this boss? Because I feel like I just keep getting pushed back by these fucking circles that drop these tornadoes. Do I just drop the tornadoes towards the middle?
It's like a 5-yard knock or something.
I literally get knocked by everything.
You could put it in the middle, or you could put it right on the edge and disengage back on. Like,
but doesn't it suck? Doesn't it suck to put it in the middle? Wouldn't you rather just like put it directly on the edge?
You are never gonna be in the middle because the wind wall expands from the middle.
Well, I'm not talking about like, oh, you're talking about like put it dead center. Oh.
Yeah,
because hold on,
because no one's ever going to be there, because the second the wind wall starts, it expands from the center, meaning if you're there, you just instantly die.
See, this is how I figure out how to do the dungeons.
Yeah, this boss is pretty interesting. But for our audio listeners who are very confused at this point, imagine like a very big version of Hulkius, the first boss in Halls of Atonement, where it's like you have a circle, you have lines that go in like a plus, and then they rotate around, and you're kind of like dodging things while you're in those quadrants or whatever. That's like most of the fight is you're dodging. You're also dropping off tornadoes that like limit the room, and Tettles is struggling with not getting hit by the tornadoes that knock you off.
Every single mechanic on this fight knocks you back, right? So some of them are avoidable, like the wind wall and these chakrams that like go across the room, and then some are unavoidable knockbacks, like these circles that drop tornadoes. And I, for the life of me, could not figure out how to appropriately like do this fight. And then,
or just use that wall there.
There's
a wall right there. You can use that gate.
You could just use the wall, yeah. I need to look at this back. How are you supposed to know where to not be? Like I actually felt like this wind wall came on me like pretty fast.
Yeah, you have to immediately move. You have to be at the edge and move.
Times. Yeah, I died a few times with that.
So like what is this? What is this? Is there like a strat for it? Like am I missing something?
To me, I feel like the telegraphing is not quite good there, and it's too fast. Like relative to Hulkius, for example, right?
Sure.
Like, it spawns the plus sign. With Hulkius, you have a second to be like, okay, here's where it is. Let me move out of it. But on this boss, it did just kind of appear on your head there and knock you off. I think that's something that I would expect them to either telegraph or delay, because it comes out very fast. Like when I walked into this boss for the first time, that's what my team warned me of, is like, make sure you move away from that plus as soon as possible, because it will just knock you out.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it, but Blizzard loves spawning things on the cardinal directions, like exactly north, south, east, and
All right, let's
west.
see. Hold on.
I won't be
I'm
surprised if
pulling it
that's
up.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's happening.
Get our protractors out.
So like, I would have assumed that it would always spawn out of these. Maybe it actually is, no, because I would assume that it would actually spawn on the platform, right? With these, but it actually doesn't spawn like that. It literally spawns like right on top of me, and I'm offset.
Oh, you have to see it. Well, we would have to look later. We can talk.
Yeah.
About
This is
that
way
one
too
later.
advanced to do
Yeah.
it over a video. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Overall, though, like I think the big thing to mention about these old dungeons is I feel like if you did the old dungeons, you generally have a small leg up on what these bosses do if you're going blind. Like they actually kind of kept a good chunk of the old mechanics still in the encounters, which is really cool.
What about I don't know if were you active during Pit of Sauron? How similar is that? I've heard that was very, very changed.
It is, the essence is still there. Like we'll talk
Okay.
about Pit later, but we can get to that later.
Well, I think we talk about Pit now. I think it's time. Yeah.
You think so?
Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
So,
I want to
Skyreach?
talk about the third boss.
Okay.
Oh, the Phoenix boss.
This boss is brutal, I think, for pugs. So the
Why?
way it works is you have these phoenixes that the boss spawns, and while they're active, they do AoE damage. When you kill them, they explode, and when they spawn, they also explode. If that explosion hits another dead phoenix, it reses it. And for coordinated groups, we did this blind. We had no idea what was going on. And you start chaining phoenixes pretty consistently without any strategy.
Yeah.
But once you have a strategy, it's actually not that bad. But like the biggest issue is the corpse of the phoenix is way larger than it looks. And I think that's like the only thing I would fix.
I think that maybe they should actually put a visual, like,
Yes.
to alert you that there is a corpse there. I didn't know what this boss did going into the fight. Somebody literally just typed, "Do not kill the birds on top of one another" in our party chat, and we one-shot this fight. I didn't find this to be too egregious. Granted, I am on a druid who has Ursul's Vortex and Typhoon and can fucking knock the mobs however I want them, so maybe that is at play here. We also have an evoker. Like, so maybe the ability to be able to CC the mobs in the right spot is super beneficial, but like, I didn't find it to be as egregious as you claim it to be.
I think it's just visual clarity, maybe more. Like doing the, like if I had known off the rip that it was don't kill phoenixes like on top of each other, I think it probably would have got a lot better.
Yeah.
And then you can make a strategy. Like I think that's probably too close in a res, isn't it?
No,
it's not.
No.
Oh, that was
res
very
for
close,
us.
Yeah. So the big thing basically is it spawns phoenixes on players over and over throughout the fight, and then the phoenix fixates that person. So you need to never stand near old phoenixes. And it's not like a delay where it's like, you're being targeted, run away. It's just, if you are ever near a phoenix, you can get randomly targeted. And then as soon as you're targeted, that phoenix is res if there's a dead body near you. So you have to be like very proactive with managing your space in the room and not standing too close to one. Like how Tettles there was close to one, but not close enough to spawn the new one. And then they just focused it down and killed it right there. So you have to be aware of your positioning and constantly like, this can be a dangerous spot here. So if Phoenix died in range of the boss, so like the melee need to be very careful with where they're standing, because now another Phoenix spawns on melee. And if they were like, on the other side of the boss, it would have rezzed that initial one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knocked that one there against the wall. And I mean, maybe that is the difference. And maybe it was literally just that somebody said, "Don't kill the phoenixes on top of other birds," and that was just like all we knew about the boss. So we worked really hard on not doing that.
I think now that like I know the strat, it's fine. But I think they probably need to maybe make a visual clarity, make, like you said, like see the phoenixes better.
Yeah, seeing the corpses and like where the corpse res range is probably a valuable change that could be made for visual clarity purposes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think this is a really good example of a fight where like it utilizes like all the information that we have now, right? We don't have weak ores and stuff screaming at us. It's kill the phoenix, make sure you're baiting correctly, and then you have to be paying attention enough to know when you need a line of sight, the big AoE ability. It seems like it's a really well designed fight for like what Blizzard gives you to work with at the moment.
Yeah.
So
it's not a boring boss, which I think that WoW Mythic Plus bosses have a tendency to be really fucking boring, and like this one is You know, it always feels like you have an active goal, right? You're trying to do something
Yep.
over and over again.
Yeah, this area is so funny because so many people do exactly what you're doing right now and not realizing you have to go through the middle. Because you just run against this infinitely until you realize that's not the path you need to take.
Yep, I did that too.
they
You get this like silly little wind maze.
If I
after
was
the boss.
smarter, I would have positioned myself better and got knocked up and launched myself onto the staircase.
Yeah,
That would have been better, and then solved this instantly and got our group finished.
so many people that just do this infinitely. It's so funny.
I feel like I almost was able to run. I don't know, run through it, but it didn't matter.
Tunnels is just a hamster on a wheel, just running into the wheel. Like I can get to the top.
I feel like I'm moving forward still, but I don't know. Maybe not.
All right, Pit of Sauron.
Yeah, a lot of diseases, a lot of dispels, a lot of required dispels. Too many, far too many, I would say even.
Yeah, the bosses are hard to heal too. It's a very healing intensive dungeon right now.
I like the overall layout. Essentially, it's the Pit of Sauron, so there's like a big pit in the middle of the dungeon, and you kind of walk around it in a circle. And there are 5. You need to free 5 objectives or something like that. Are there more than 5?
No,
Like throughout the thing, there are exactly 5.
correct.
Okay, so I was wondering how much variety you had in this initial area with like what you pull. It feels like this dungeon is a little bit more open and a little bit more like you have a lot of choices in what you pull. Even if you have to get all 5 of them, like you know which ones. You kind of like can go left or right at the start. You can kind of like decide what to pull. You can combine packs easier. It's not like super crowded. So I did like this sort of, regardless of like the mechanics, I did kind of like the trash layout of everything. Like
It's
you
like
can
Floodgate.
do different types of. Yeah,
It's kind of like Floodgate, and it's also kind of like Floodgate in the sense that there are serious landmine mobs in this dungeon that like pulling these are a huge problem. Like the those dumbass bats that shield themselves and pick up people. That mob has to be the biggest time loss of a mob I've ever seen. Like I don't understand how that is a real mob.
Yeah. The bat. So the bat mob, it shields itself, picks up one of your teammates.
This guy.
And until the shield is broken, you can't interrupt it to drop the player.
So it is fortunately enough a route. So things like rescue, hunter disengage, shapeshift, you can get out of it, right? That's advanced. I'm sure you could DA out of it. Like you can get out of the route, but it's like the mob then it shielded itself. It's a really bad mechanic. But like more to the point, like there are landmine mobs in this dungeon, and that's just something that's gonna come with time and experience progressing the dungeon.
And also nerfs, I'm sure.
I mean, those mobs could get removed, and I would never be upset.
Yeah, there's a guy that rides a dragon somewhere in this dungeon that I think I've seen a melee die to, and every single time we've pulled it. I'm not exactly sure how it's supposed to work. I keep hearing it's a frontal, but then I keep seeing melee just fall over.
Is this
that are behind it?
Post nerf?
This is today.
Like today, yeah, like today.
All I know about that dragon is a giant telegraphed frontal. So like
the one that Tarithal just moved out of. Hold
on. Yeah. Like the giant blue beam, like cone on the ground, and like.
I know I've died to it before, and I've seen other melee randomly die to it. And
this guy, yeah,
this guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all he does is he just puts a giant frontal in the ground.
Let's see. The Iceborne something. No, maybe the name
that.
is Yarmar. Well, it's heat seeking for melee.
Maybe it could just be an example of the, like, we're used to now this very, very good telegraph and like very clear lines on the ground. This was not a thing in these older dungeons, so I wouldn't be surprised if they touch back up specifically Skyreach and Pit to have better telegraphing on certain things.
It doesn't even start the telegraph until like a second into the cast too. I didn't even notice this. Look at this. So he's actually started casting Frost Breath already. We're we have to be 0.5 seconds into the cast, maybe even 0.75 seconds into the cast. Now we finally see telegraphing and we have less time. That is weird.
That makes sense.
I mean,
okay, I could understand a little more now.
Probably makes sense as to why melee died now.
But yeah, like as to the bosses, like the bosses themselves are actually pretty similar to the old counterparts. Like the Forge Master, his main mechanic was you had to line of sight to drop your stacks. He, instead of doing like a big AoE where you line of sight for 2 seconds, he did a pulsing AoE, and you had to reset your stacks by standing behind the rock. So like that mechanic sucked. This mechanic has the same vibe, but it's just better, right? Like, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy seemed okay. Do those rocks line of sight?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's one thing I noticed in this dungeon. These rocks and the last boss as well have these sort of things that line of sight you. I was quite frustrated as a healer trying to heal these, like, because they're not super healing intensive fights, but there's definitely group damage going on here, you can see. And there's lots of like spread and wall type mechanics in this dungeon. And then, yeah, so I'm interested to see how they handle it. Like, I know that that's part of the game, but yeah, I think people will get caught off guard a little bit by that.
The problem is
damage.
if it's not LOS, it is unbelievably punishing for melee compared to ranged. Like your melee are going to have a 70% uptime fight, and your ranged are going to have a 100% uptime fight if it's not an LOS mechanic, right?
That makes sense.
I mean,
so something I didn't realize about this until today, that there's actually 2 different forges. And
Yes.
so you can kind of decide which area you like better, and you can move the boss in a way that like optimizes your DPS. So for example, like in the video right now, it's really cursed for melee, if you're trying to put rocks. But if we were to move him to the other forge right now, the melee could get a lot more uptime.
What does the other forge do? We only played on this side whenever you and I were here.
Exact same thing, just different location. And realistically,
he's just saying that there's shit everywhere here. So once this gets covered up, you can move it to another spot. On the other side of the room.
I see what you're saying. The place where he goes in channels. I'm following.
Yep. And if you really want to, you can try to like milk the DPS on the last one. Like if he's like at 1%, you can drag him like really, really far away from both forges, and try to kill him before he does the line of sight mechanic or something.
Wouldn't you do that every single time?
Depends on if you have melee, because he walks quite quickly, I think. Ranged wouldn't care, but like...
Yeah, I guess you could do that every time. I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's a couple, a second or two or whatever.
Second or two per, yeah.
I mean, you did that for the second boss of Azure Vault.
First boss of Gambit's the one that I always think of whenever you think of stupid stuff like that.
Fair.
But yeah, okay, so the bosses typically pay homage to their old counterparts. But, like Tarithal said, what's the deal with the heal checks? All these fights in this dungeon have insane heal checks?
Yeah, this fight here specifically, I've healed it a couple times, and I honestly don't even really know what's going on. I feel like this fight needs some sort of visual clarity. There's like little totems that pop up, and people get curses that I think are heal absorbs. So it's beneficial to have some sort of decurse. I don't know. There's just constant damage all the time, and yeah, there's just like pulsing AoE. There's stuff to dodge.
You said trash on this guy?
Yeah, we do.
So this is a boss which has a kick rotation though, because Crick casts what is it, like Death Bolt or something? It's something death related, and if that ever casts, it does so much damage.
Yep.
But it's like an 8-second cast or something.
It's like quite slow. Yeah, it's just
it's very slow. But like this is like one of the bosses that you do need a kick rotation for, because this one's not cast on the tank.
But it can't be soloed by somebody?
I don't think so. I think it's a 2-person kick rotation.
Okay.
But the other problem is he summons 2 totems of himself that also like cast a channel on somebody that kind of hurts.
Yeah, and you want to kick the channel. Are these mobs, are these totems CCable, or is it just kick?
I'm not sure. They are quite buggy though. My kill command wasn't working on them today.
What?
It might have been like a one-off thing, but yeah.
Strange.
Typical totem issues.
Yeah, totem problems.
Overall, though, I think it's like a fine fight now. It's weird. You want to kill the clones as fast as possible and then cleave the 2 bosses, but like, it's fine.
It's kind of how most of those. Yeah, I mean, it's the exact same way as the seat third boss that has the tentacles. It is like the actual same boss in my mind.
Then you have the cave and the man in the cave.
Yeah, this was a very strange part. So I liked the dungeon up until here. Then there's like this demonic mini boss that's in the cave leading to the last boss. And I might be mistaken, but it didn't even give count when we killed it.
I've never made it this far. So what's wrong with this guy?
You're in a very closed space, and then he sort of drops puddles on everybody like this, and the puddles grow, and there's rocks that are falling.
Okay.
And then you finally kill him, and he doesn't give count.
I see.
I think he might give like 3% or something like that. I don't think it's a lot, but
He summons the checkpoint, by the way, I want to mention.
Yeah.
So yeah, this ice grows massively. It's the ice from Senarth, so you slip and slide on it if you're ever in it.
Oh, yeah.
All while having to dodge these falling rocks the entire time for casters. Then he does big AoE damage while channeling a frontal shield to annoy your casters even more. And then he puts more ice. And basically, like, people are gonna try to move this forwards, and like you have to play back and move forward every time because the ice expands so much.
He could probably do without these falling rocks. I think the rest of the mechanics kind of make sense. Yeah, I mean, just at a glance, the falling rocks seem to be the really fucking annoying part of this entire thing. Because getting boxed off while you have to drop these puddles for this expanding ice. It feels like the expanding ice should be the main mechanic, not the dodge rock.
Yeah,
it's a callback to the original dungeon. The original dungeon had falling rocks.
Yeah. And then you summon the checkpoint.
I mean, in theory, they could rework him to make him slightly different if they want the falling rock to be the core mechanic. It just both of those mechanics together just don't really work that well. I mean, it's just it does look like a tough mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they just need to make sure he's worth killing, right? Like I think as long like one of the biggest problems that they do with mini bosses is that they like.
Well, he gives a checkpoint.
Is this skippable?
Well,
do you have to?
Yeah, exactly right. We're asking these questions like, how much count does he give? Do you need him for the checkpoint? Is he skippable? Like, they just need to find a good balance there so that it doesn't feel terrible to kill him. You know?
Yeah.
We skipped the 2 mobs going into the cave. You probably didn't see that, but we actually pulled those to the side and skipped them.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if you need to kill that guy to kill the last boss or not.
So there was a strategy I heard like very early on. I don't know if it's a thing where you would just run by and it would activate the checkpoint, and then you'd basically death skip that guy. But I that was like a day 2 thing that people were doing. I don't even know if it's still a thing or if it works.
Yeah, and the last boss is pretty straightforward, honestly. Some people get ice blast. You want to blast the big laser beamed necrotic bone piles, and afterwards he summons any bone piles you didn't.
Wow, these really look like they were created in 2008.
So I think it's a last boss of Floodgate logic where each person gets picked once. And then any of these rot piles that have like a green beam coming out of them will spawn a caster when he does like his summon Army of the Dead ability.
Yep. Okay.
I found this boss quite tough as a healer. So you see here, there's like an intermission phase. Basically, you have a chance to freeze as many bone piles as you can. Then he'll summon adds from the ones that you don't freeze. So he's summoning a bunch of adds, and on top of this, he's pulsing a huge amount of AoE damage. On top of this, he's spawning a bunch of swirlies everywhere. So you just have the ultimate 4 times healer nightmare of line of sight ice blocks, swirlies so you can't cast, adds that are spawning that will run at you if you get threat, and also heavy group damage. So I think they need to give a little bit somewhere here. So if you watch Tarithal, he drops this ice, he'll take a dot here and get knocked back. He's line of sight from the healer. So he kind of ran out and he ran back right in range. But a lot of times I was finding situations where like someone would drop the ice on the mobs and then just start casting on the boss because they're DPS, and they're just out of line of sight because they're behind this ice block. So there's like massive line of sight issues on this boss. Again, it could just be part of the mechanic where people need to learn that, but having the drop off, like it was just like a tough mechanic that people weren't quite ready for, that I could see Pugs definitely struggling with.
Well, you feel the third boss is Sanguine Death, so I'm sure you could figure this one out.
Yeah, well, again, though, it's one of those things where, as you mentioned, like, I'm on beta, but I'm also playing with a bunch of people in voice that know the game, that I can communicate with, that we can talk about strategies. But, like, if someone walks into this boss with 4, monkeys and they don't know what's going on, like, it could be, you're going to be screaming at your key. Like, look at how much damage they're taking here.
I think,
like, imagine
if
somebody goes behind LOS.
He's in a 15. I think that Pugs are not going to have a real heal check on this fight is kind of the differentiator that I will say.
I also think if you just focus down the ad, that stops the damage, because the ad causes the pulsing damage, not the boss. Right?
Yes.
So realistically, if we want to lessen the damage so that your healer isn't struggling, you just hard kill the ad.
Well, right. Yeah, there are things that DPS can do, but I'm saying, like, as the healer, you can't do any of these things. You can't make the DPS move out of line of sight. You can't focus down the ad. Like, you're just sitting there healing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I thought that dungeon was okay. Again, they thinned out some casters and made it better. I think the boss fights I liked. In general, that's a theme I found. I liked most of the boss fights in the dungeons.
Yeah.
And then there's Seat.
Yeah, Seat's got a lot of tank damage. What were we gonna say, Tarithal?
I was gonna say this first boss is gonna wipe groups. I think the first boss right now is just it spawns ads too often.
And they have way too much health. Like, the boss is basically IPA from Cinderbrew Meadery, right? Like, it's basically identical. Where there's just a bunch of ads that are trying to get to the boss, and you have to not let that happen.
This boss used to be a decent amount different in Legion. There used to be a phase where he would like take bonus damage, but like to be able to get the bonus damage phase, somebody would get sent down into the Void Realm and have to kill off a mirror image ad of themselves. Meanwhile, you're 4-manning the fucking blobs up top. But yeah, I mean, these coalesce slimes as they run. Why do they randomly gain like insane speed?
When he casts that, if you take too long, he casts that, and then basically like when he reaches 100 energy, he casts a big suck with an AoE at the end, which makes which sucks the slimes in faster.
But yeah, comparing it to IPA is good because in IPA, number one, there was no area denial really. Like the puddles would come up. In this fight, the puddles that you drop stay there and they spawn the ads from them. So like you lose the room, and eventually if you're doing a key that's a challenge for your group, you're gonna have a third of the room left or something and way less room to move the boss. On top of that, as Squishy mentioned, there is sort of like an enrage with the ads, right? You can't just keep pushing them back and keep slowing them. You can, but they get really, really fast and they end up going into the boss. They get much faster than the IPA ones.
They're only fast during that cast. Yeah. So if you knock them back during that cast with something like a thunderstorm or a typhoon,
I guess that's true. Okay, so with some level of coordination, you can kind of mitigate that.
Yeah.
I just think uptime is going to be really hard. It seems like as soon as you get done killing one set, you're just immediately killing more sets.
I mean, I think that the correct way of doing this boss is certainly not what we were doing here. I think that
for sure.
The best thing to do, hold on, let me see if I can even bust out Epic Pin or something like that.
Is get mass root.
It's like
permanently mass root them.
Well, you can't do that anymore. They changed how root DR works, but yeah, sure. So like I think that you would like actually start the boss on the side of the room and then just like be fully stacked as a group of 5 and then just move around the room like this direction, right? Just constantly moving around, like because I think that the big issue is actually his leap is the big part of melee denial, and if you ever leap him out of melee DPS just end up losing infinite time. On top of the fact that if any slimes end up spawning, like, and they have to go through this puddle to be able to contact the boss, you're in a lot of trouble. So you're gonna want to just like move the boss like basically clockwise around the room and be stacked up as 5. That way your melee DPS can actually have unfiltered uptime. Now the problem with melee on this fight is that melee are just not going to be good at killing these slimes at all. I don't really know how to make that better.
I think there's actually a world where you actually don't kill the slimes and roll the dot. Like, don't roll the dot. Like, you just let the slimes hit one at a time.
Oh.
And the idea is to treat it like bursting, not like actually killing them.
Sure. I mean, is the dot healable at a high level? I actually don't know the answer to that. I mean, like, we healed it at 12, but like, what is it?
I know Tarithal. I was watching this dungeon and they definitely let one hit earlier, so I don't know when.
I feel like that's not intended, and they're not going to want that to be the main strategy that people do here. Like, I think the intention is to kill them.
It could be kill 2, let 1 in or something, I guess, maybe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe there's some middle ground.
They just have so much health too that like what is the opportunity cost of killing them? It's how much damage you can deal to the boss, right? And it's like you lose a lot of damage on the boss trying to kill these stupid fucking slimes.
Because the only time the boss does damage is at the end of the there is no rot damage on this fight. Correct. Like, look at health bars; they are not moving. Right. I think the oozing slam is the only time that the raid takes damage, which is when the blobs spawn. So like, realistically, you top everyone after the oozing slam, you let one in, you heal that. Like, assuming like, for all we know, that could be the intended way to deal with the mechanic.
I doubt it's intended, but it could be a way of dealing with the mechanic.
It could
getting these slimes grouped fast is actually a huge deal.
Look, they survived a 2-stack, right? Like, they lived.
Well,
they lived the initial. And that was a 2-stack, so.
Lived is subjective. I guess we wiped, but we lived the initial hit. But yeah. Moved to the second area, trash. Kind of similar to Pit of Sauron. I actually think there's a lot of landmine mob types that you need to watch out for in this second area. These bats, what are they called? Like ravenous screechers or whatever.
They have the kick.
Yeah, they're pretty annoying. Rift Wardens, if you get them too far from their rift, they start doing an insane amount of damage. But as long as you know that, like I think that just like knowledge of this dungeon is a huge thing. Where
this area's fine.
Yeah.
Other than the Riftstalker bleed, which if you don't know it exists, you'll just die to it randomly.
Yeah, both of my times that I've done this, I think I've had a evoker. So I've had cauterized to help with the bleeds, but the bleeds are really, really nasty. This is another really cool boss. Yeah, it's a 3-target cleave boss. I mean, the main mechanic is it spits out a bunch of orbs everywhere, little tiny guys. Then it gives you circles that you can clear the orbs with. And then you basically have to clear all the orbs with the circles, and then the boss will like blow them up. You can run into them and take a dot to get rid of them. So like, let's say your group doesn't, it gets all but 1 or 2. You can have the tank run into them, or you can have like someone pop a defensive. So it just is like it's a fairly simple boss, but there's just a little bit of min-maxing here with the cat will jump out at people. So like you kind of want to be close, and you kind of want to, make your movement good by getting to the orbs, and just like another overall just like solid boss where you're not just sleeping, but at the same time, like, it's not some crazy hard, lots of stuff going on mechanic overload thing that a lot of people are worried about.
Yeah, I can't really think of any bosses that are just unfair at the moment.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's really tough on beta because not everything is at its final tuning, and we haven't really like pushed the keys to their limit.
You're
but
a
once
motherfucker
you
for
get
pulling
into
all 3 of these, by the way. This is the biggest troll job by my tank I think I've ever experienced. Who cares about healer? Healer? I'm in the fucking air the entire fight, man.
You have flap. You're good.
I mean, all these mobs do is they do a frontal, and they knock 2 people in the air and put a dot on them.
There's also mobs that have a magic debuff that needs to get purged in this third area. That I don't think
is there.
Yes,
they didn't show up in my nameplate, so I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is the nameplate conundrum. There's like a weapon infusion, I think, that from some of these mobs that actually just like pulses your entire group for AoE that could get purged, which obviously would be helpful to know.
I saw it there on the target frame as you were shuffling around the frames. It definitely shows up. I didn't notice it until you said something, but yeah.
Is it this void infuser, or is it a different, or is it actually the mob?
No, there's like a debuff with a glow. I don't know who does it, but there definitely was a purge.
Yeah, I mean they're purgeable mobs in this area that are like really annoying.
You see
oh wow! But that doesn't even show up in the nameplates, man.
On the target frame, you see above the target frame in the bottom right. There's like one that has
void, the dire void.
Yeah.
Oh, it's this thing right here.
Yep.
Okay, so what it does is whenever it's actually active, I know because we all like wiped through this because we pulled too many of these mobs together. We couldn't really actually tell why we wiped to the pack. I started looking at my death recap, and I'm looking at the spells that killed me, and it's every single time this mob melees while this debuff is active, it just does like a chain lightning effect to your entire group. Oh. And so, like, it is, you see us getting literally, like, down into the ground, like, and it's...
I don't understand why I can't see that on my, like, nameplate.
It's there, look to the left, it's there.
Oh, on mine, it wasn't.
So pause it right here. So one big thing that a lot of people are going to take getting used to is if you used either the cooldown on nameplate weak aura or bigwigs feature, it puts cooldowns of spells to the left of the nameplates, right? But the Blizzard nameplates now are putting sometimes important buffs there, right? Like you see how on the left of the frames,
enrages are there too.
Yes. So in your head, you generally don't care about a lot of those / like even filter those out, but those are actually very important things that you need to look for now. I don't know if you'll be able to move them or whatever, but just, you see a number 7 in a spell there and you think, oh, that's a cooldown of whatever random ability it's using, but that's a buff right there that you need to be paying attention to. And the reason that Squishy might not be able to see it, I think it might have to do with, how Plater has that functionality where if you have a Soothe, you can see the Enrage, but if you don't have a Soothe, you may not be able to see it. So you were maybe playing a class that didn't have a Purge, so it wasn't even showing that buff on the frame for you, which is probably not a good thing, and which is why I emphasize that they should have blacklists and whitelists for these things.
Yeah, I definitely could have gotten rid of it as a Demon Hunter, so that's probably why it's showing for me.
Yeah, because I never saw this buff. I'm looking through my VOD right now. I didn't see a single buff in all 4 dungeons I did, except for one.
What class were you playing?
Evoker.
Yeah, because you don't have a Purge, right?
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying that's why I think it works like that.
Yeah, I mean, so these mobs started to fuck us up. Then we realized that we were pulling too big, but I don't think we really recognized why we were pulling too big, like what the actual problem is. Because and that's kind of what Tarithal said at the very beginning of this, right? Trying to figure out what the bottleneck is in a dungeon is a huge undertaking, and it's like Mythic Plus has always been gated behind knowledge, and so trying to figure out what packs can be merged together and whatnot, that just takes time.
Yep. The boss itself, honestly, fine, perfectly fine boss.
I don't understand why you can stun the tentacles, but you can't incap them or any other CC on them. Including kick. I don't really get it. It's only meld and
might be oversight.
Meld and stun. It seems. I mean, it's how it was in Legion. It's literally how it was in Legion. I just forgot.
Yeah,
well, actually, no.
Probably why then.
You could kick it in Legion was actually the difference, but it was troll. It was troll then too.
And then this boss is kind of weird. It basically had it would knock you back very far, and then it would push you away, and you'd have to get close to the boss to get in a safe spot. So you'd kind of have to think about your movement or whatever. Probably very, very annoying if you have if you're a priest or whatever, that you can't do anything about that. But then at the same time, stuff like Evoker Rescue or Roar could be very, very helpful on this boss.
This is justice for all. This is justice for all those disc priest seasons that we've had recently.
Oh man, no, but haven't you heard though? Only Shaman has a kick, so no other healers could possibly be meta besides Shaman. They took away Disc Priest kick, so now you can't play Disc Priest anymore.
Okay, I need to ask, what did you guys think of this last boss?
I was very confused at first, and I wiped our group. So my understanding of this boss is the boss spawns. There are 5 or 6 thingies that you have to activate. The boss targets 3 different people with a beam, and you have to hit those things with your beam.
Yep.
And then the weird part about this boss is he basically has after you do the break, he has a giga mega vulnerability where it lasts a very long time and it takes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Which I found that to be very interesting because there's not many bosses that have that sort of thing, right? If you pop 2 minutes on pull of this boss, you are completely trolling to not assuming that you get the first vuln before 2 minutes come up, right? So this is I kind of like bosses that challenge your DPS in a way that makes you think in different ways, right? You're how do I deal with a boss that acts like this?
Mechanically, I actually like this boss. Visually, I'm not a huge fan of the relics doing the pulsing effect.
Oh, dude.
And I find these beams particularly hard to see with the purple on purple shit, to the point where, this is kind of stuff that we've gotten away from. It's so hard to actually see where these beams are starting, kind of in the same way the Skyreach first boss. It's where the fuck are these starting?
This boss would be a fantastic boss if it was outdoors in fucking Eco Dome Aldani.
Yeah.
That's right. That's good comms.
But instead, we are inside this tiny dome, which is dark and voidy, but you're fighting your camera the entire time because you have to look behind you constantly to see if the relic behind you is active. And you're fighting the camera as you do 180s because you're in a tiny enclosed space. Meanwhile, the boss is trying to kill you with purple on purple shit. And if you, when the lines go out, just pause it real quick, Tuttles. When the beams come out.
Beams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should be, Look at, go 2 more seconds when the relics pulse, right? When the relics pulse, there is so much visual noise on your screen when this happens. The relics are pulsing sound waves. The beams are pulsing sound waves. Your camera zoomed in because you're in a dome. It's just, Ugh.
Yeah,
Cool boss.
It should not. I like the mechanics. I want to reiterate. I actually think that mechanically, this fight kind of owns. Visually, it's a bit fucked. Tarithal, you have any takes on this?
I like it. I think it's a little awkward though. I think if you want to line up your second two Sen, you actually want to intentionally miss one of them during the second round through.
Okay.
So I think you want to actually force it to do three sets of like ad breaks, which I don't know if that's like good design or not, but
Oh yeah, that's right. So basically, you get 3 beams, and you have to kill what 5 of the portals or 6 of them or whatever.
Yeah, there's 6 and there's 3 beams each time. So if you want to line up your
yeah.
twos, you have to have one person miss intentionally.
That's a good point. You may end up missing. I don't really mind that. I guess like I think that's something where like you know a normal civilian group just won't care and they'll just plan it out. But like an organized group might decide to do that, and I think that's kind of cool.
I actually think it's fine that would be the strategy if you're trying to optimize your offensive CDs.
So
I do think that this cast, it is the longest cast for like ground effect swirlies I've ever seen. I do understand that the boss goes into a vulnerability phase.
Look at the screen. I think this summarizes like a lot of the beta testing right now of the old dungeons. Boss mechanics, cool, fun. Visual stuff is a huge clusterfuck, and you can tell how outdated it is with how much better the visuals have gotten. And trash is kind of a mixed bag, but it seems like they're fixing that. Hopefully they work on fixing some of the visual stuff as well, but that's one where I have less faith on just because I know that that's like not necessarily the balance team or whatever all the time, right?
Yeah. So 2 things, Tattles. 1, that cast is really long because it's a kill you cast, and Ilaria stops it in the lore. So that's why it's such a long cast, because that's the charge up to kill you, but it doesn't go off. Secondly, if you miss relics, it actually ramps a dot on you for longer, and the dot only goes away when the phase ends. Okay. So like it kind of depends on the healer check as well. If you see like until you break and finish the phase, you see this ever stacking dot. We missed like 5 in a row, and I had 60 stacks of the dot by the end of the phase.
We missed 5 in a row.
We were not great because of the visual clarity of this boss.
Yeah,
it took a while, but like
I feel like even if you weren't even trying, eventually you would hit all of them at that rate, right?
Maybe. It wasn't great, but like it depends on the tuning of that dot, right? Like if the healer's an issue, you might just need to double break right away. Like DPS cooldowns be damned.
Yeah. So. It really, I think that dot is going to be the thing that is contingent on. Also, it might just be faster to get 3 200% vulnerabilities as opposed to 2 optimal 200% vulnerabilities.
That's fair.
So it's hard to really say like what exactly is going to be the meta strategy. That's going to be something that's figured out weeks and weeks and weeks from now. All right. I don't want to keep Tarithal too much longer. Anything else that you want to discuss?
I do.
Tarithal?
Yep, I do. Yep. I have a whole nother section we're going to do. Unless you guys are trying to get out of here, I kind of want to talk to him more.
All right, we got stuff. I got infinite time today.
All right, sweet. Can you go back and can you start that video of him playing Vengeance again? Just like get some footage going to talk about some UI stuff. So the main things I want to talk about is like to people specifically who are kind of like not in the weeds, like really paying attention to all the changes in Midnight, who hear that add-ons are being deleted and who are scared for their UI and are wondering how things are looking. I'm looking at your UI here, and well, okay, you're editing your UI. All right, the bad timing there. You're editing your UI mid pull. But so your UI, I think to a lot of people, this would be like indistinguishable to what people have now, right? You have a custom health bar. It looks like you have custom fonts. You've custom your resources, your spells. Can you talk a little bit about like specifically your HUD? What are the things that you've been able to change on the beta? And then are there things that you're really missing in terms of just like playing your character? Not necessarily like nameplates or party frames or anything.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of get a little nerdy with this, but so I guess in the last couple of podcasts, you've kind of just mentioned this briefly, and kind of what I did with my add-ons is I didn't have access to alpha when it was out, and I was curious what all of the changes were going to be. And I'm someone that likes to, you've probably heard about my weak cores and stuff like that in the past. I'm someone that likes to kind of just do things myself. And so a lot of the stuff I've done on the screen here is just honestly, a lot of it's just like vibe coded crap that I just want to like see if things would work or not. But yeah, I mean, you can see that a lot of the stuff is customizable. So I guess we'll just go piece by piece. So for like raid frames right now, You can change colors, you can change textures, you can truncate names. So I'm not sure if mine is doing that or not, but you can limit the amount of characters that the names are showing. You can customize the color of the names. The actual buffs and debuffs, though, I was personally having trouble moving those, and so I'm not quite sure if you can customize those as of right now. In theory, you should be able to kind of just pick up the entire parent where those things are being generated and just move it to a different location. But I personally was having trouble doing that. Maybe someone smarter than me can figure that out. Um, I guess one of the biggest differences when it comes to UI, what we've historically done to create add-ons versus now. So historically, if you were using something like ElvUI, what the add-on authors would essentially do is they would just take whatever Blizzard generates into the game. Every time you do like a /reload or when you log in the game, what's technically happening is that you're generating the default UI, and then before your eyes can even recognize it, these add-ons are essentially hiding whatever Blizzard is doing and then generating, whatever the add-on author wants you to do. And historically, what we've done is we've like hid the unit frame, we've hid the target frame, we've hid the focus frame, and then we've essentially created our own frames. And there's a different discussion with like protected and secured frames versus non-protected, but there are some fields that you can't access anymore. So, for example, if you're trying to target an enemy and get information about that target, things like their name, their level, their health. If you're trying to do any kind of calculation with their health, trying to get a health bar to move up and down, some of those are just protected now, and you can't access the anymore. And so what all these add-on authors are doing, if you have like a custom target frame, is they're essentially just taking the default Blizzard target frame and then they're just rearranging it. They may put like their own little custom texture on it to like get the color right or something like that, but they're essentially just taking whatever Blizzard gives you and then they're just hiding the portrait and they're moving the health text into a different field. They're moving the power bar into a different field. They're not actually creating their own unit frame. They're kind of just Frankensteining their own version of whatever they give you. And so a lot of issues are happening with these add-ons because those frames you can alter outside of instances and outside of combat, and there are different restrictions. Sometimes you can change things only outside of instances, only outside of combat, and there's some things you can do in combat, and there's just different rules for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the issues that people are having is that they're creating these frames that everyone likes to see, but you could do a test if you ever get in combat in an instance and then do a /reload. I bet you right now half of your UIs are just going to start to deform because there's only so many things you can do actually while you're in instance combat. So that's kind of the struggle that people are having right now when they're trying to come up with new UI elements, is getting these things to work and kind of trick you into behaving normally, even when something like you crash mid-pull and you have to log back in and reconstruct your UI on the fly in the middle of combat in an instance. Kind of overcoming those things is quite difficult. And then manipulating the frames that Blizzard gives you naturally on top of that is actually more difficult than just creating your own frames. In terms of add-on functionality, so add-ons right now are really bad at reacting to things. So if you get like a buff or debuff mid-combat, add-ons can't really like react to that. Or if you're working with add-ons like DBM or bigwigs that give you countdowns, if Blizzard designs a boss that's really dynamic and has things changing all the time where not everything is on rails, those add-on developers are going to have a really hard time giving you accurate information because add-ons aren't good at reacting to things mid-combat and mid-instances at the moment. What you can do, however, and if you were looking at my hunter at all, you might have noticed like a couple WeakAura looking things pop up on the screen. You can do things like you can look at the combat log for the player, and if there's like a cast success event, for example, you could put buffs or trackers all over your screen at the moment, really based off of those.
Is that how you get your Bestial Wrath like buff to show up?
So you can see anytime I kick, there's like a little icon left of my like where my power bar is that pops up, which for all intents and purposes, you could just, right there. You can see it's like glowing and it has a cooldown on it. Like that's just a custom, essentially WeakAura that I made that every time I kick, it just shows my kick countdown. And so these add-on developers really could do a lot with that. You can have consumables anytime you use a pot. You can have a cooldown on your screen. Anytime you use an ability that doesn't have some sort of dynamic way of coming off cooldown faster,
Like a trinket.
Yeah. So for me, I like to see my my trinkets exactly when they go off. So sometimes I'll just add like a little countdown to show me the duration of the buff, right? So the logic is cast successful for the player is the trinket, so I can plug in the spell ID. I know it's going to last for, let's say, 20 seconds. And so I could show that icon on my screen, and there's no problem with that. You can do that right now for anything. You could even make your own defensive buff bar if you wanted to that updates dynamically with icons. You can make it look exactly like Weak Wars would do right now.
Okay.
As long as it's not looking at the logic reactively as it's happening in the game. So there's actually quite a lot you could do with that right now, and I don't think that add-on developers have really, gone into the weeds with that. But
right, I mean, this Hunter UI like looks extremely nice, right? Like this is basically indistinguishable. Like obviously you can like find individual things, but this I would say is near indistinguishable from a like base UI that, or like, sorry, not base UI, from a UI that someone's using in the game right now, and arguably like looks nicer than most people's UIs in the game right now anyway. So in terms of customizing, it sounds like, so almost everything that you're doing and that you have like at your fingertips, like your cooldowns, your defensives, like all your stuff, you have very good access to customize nearly everything, right? Like you can kind of see your own buffs in which way. And the problems right now, well, problems, we don't know how Blizzard handles these, are like, number one, things that happen to you, right? Which might be a good thing, right? Like if you get a debuff or if something happens to you, you can't necessarily customize events like that, right? Like you can't say, oh, this is a very important debuff, let me dwarf this. Your add-on isn't going to be able to see that. You can show your debuffs all together in a way, but you can't use add-ons to sort of parse that. And then the other things would be the party frames, where it's like a very complex, a bunch of different things, right? Like you have all the information on your party frames, and being able to dissect certain things is something that, in you said it might even be something you can do. It's just something that's like much different and much more advanced, as opposed to like just setting up your HUD, right?
Yeah, you could see like I have like a focus frame kick that shows up, and it's kind of Frankenstein. It's the focus frame, and I've essentially just hid everything but the cast bar, right? Like in reality, you would prefer just to have a focus kick, right? You don't want to have to manipulate the focus frame so that you don't have something ugly in the middle of your screen. You'd prefer not to do that, but I mean those kind of things are possible still.
Okay. And I also wanted to talk about, to get a little bit more specific about party frames, because this has been a hot topic. This is not me going at JB, by the way. I just really liked the screenshot to sort of talk about my example. So he tweeted here side by side his raid frames in live, and then his raid frames during testing. And I was wondering if you could break down like some of the things that like I assume there's some stuff he can do here that he's not doing, that add-ons will definitely be able to do, right? Like, for instance, changing the colors of everything the way he wants it, and then making class-colored names, right? All that stuff is stuff that you can do in-game, right? Like, already, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could see we've been watching my stream, but I have like a black frame with a white background. Like, I could easily make that green and red, right? Like, that's not an issue. You could
also
you
class
could
colored names, right?
think,
like he commented on you can't have class colored names, but you have
mine
class colored
are.
names.
Yeah, I've
yes,
got mine.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep. So you've already he's mentioned that, but you can actually already do that. And again, this isn't me coming after JB. This is mainly just explaining to people what can and can't be done. How about like any sort of movement over the things on the frame? Like for example, the roll icon, the buffs, the debuffs. Do you think there's any sort of movement that can be done there? Assuming it's everything together all at once, not necessarily like specific ones.
So I think Blizzard's goal is that you should be able to. I personally haven't been able to. It could just be because I'm kind of new at it and not very good at it, but I think it's probably possible. You just have to find like what the quote unquote parent of the frame is that you would need to move in order to essentially realign it. I've had difficulty doing that, so I'm not sure at this moment if you can or can't do that. But I know the name text, you can definitely like resize it, recolor it. I assume you can probably move it around. The frame itself, you can recolor, as you can see.
Something he did complain about though was the Rejuve Hot He likes it being like a indistinguishable box that's colored. Can you change it like that?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think you
so.
can, but I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
I think the two big things, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that he wants that you're not able to do are, number one, customizing the way something is displayed, like basically you only get the rejuve icon, and number two, separating one thing out of many, right? Like you can't necessarily say, it's like separate rejuve in a different part of the frame or life bloom in a different part of the frame in the same way that you can't do that with debuffs, right? Like you can't say separate the important bleeds from the non-important bleeds. Is that right?
No. So if you're trying to develop an add-on and kind of like tinker with what is it exactly going on in the frame, there's this really cool command you can do in the game right now. You do slash and that's F stack. So it's like F as in Frank and then stack. And you can hover over individual icons and kind of like see what they're doing. And currently, if you do that with the raid frame, it'll say like buff number 1, buff number 2, buff number 3, debuff number 1, debuff number 2, debuff number 3.
Okay.
And so they're like very generically named. And so it's there's nothing to really like identify.
Oh, so technically you could do that, but in like not the way he would want to. Like you could say put debuff 1 here always, but you don't necessarily know what debuff 1 is, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe.
that makes sense.
Maybe you could. I'm not
Yeah.
sure,
Okay. So you're saying maybe there's some world where someone might be able to figure out logic or like a priority list, maybe, because like that would be kind of interesting if they like made it so you. Yeah, I don't know where I'm cooking with there, but you know, like they have the most important debuffs have like a lower priority, and so like you can make the first 2 debuffs bigger on the frame or whatever. Like the first 2. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you could tinker with that. I was having trouble just even moving them on the frame, but maybe someone like maybe Relo could get it to work. Someone who's like extremely good at the add-on development.
They have talked about like in the add-on UI Discord, Blizzard has talked about looking at maybe potentially possibly doing or better aura filtering, but they have not committed to anything yet.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Would be nice. I mean, I feel like the individual part of the UI, something that I thought was going to be different going into this expansion with all of these changes was I originally thought that add-ons were going to be less required, and I think that add-ons are just as required as they always kind of have been, mostly due to the fact that add-ons still give you a competitive advantage, right? Like it kind of shows you information in a way that the default UI is just not very good at, whether it be customizing your nameplates in a way that's like really nice, in a way that it is changing how your HUD ends up looking. The default UI is not very good at being customizable, where add-ons are still going to be just as required as they kind of always have been. Now it's just going to be these 1 percentile add-ons, weak auras, that were actually, kind of breaking down some bosses that I think are going to be the things that are actually going away. Right now, there's a lot of add-ons on beta that are just like straight up fucking bad too, and underdeveloped and not really fully formed and fully fledged out yet. And I wouldn't be shocked if as time goes on, those will get a lot better and, people's UIs then start to look like Tarithal's, where it's like, this is almost indistinguishable from a retail UI.
I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you guys think about that? Tuttle said he thinks add-ons will be the way. This is sort of the benchmark that I would give, right? Let's say you have a friend who is good at games, and they say, "Hey, I want to start playing WoW at midnight," and they're like, taking it seriously and trying to be good. Would you tell them on day 1 to download add-ons? In retail right now, currently, I would tell them get details, get this, get this, get this. Right? Would you? Do you guys think you're gonna have to do that at midnight as well?
No.
I don't think so. I think most of the stuff, especially on my screen, most of it's just a skin, right? Like the raid frames, you're not really getting a benefit from it, right? I'm literally just recoloring things. And then the target frame is just the target frame. I just made it black. The unit frame and power bar, I think that just looks nicer than, the default, just kind of having it compact. I don't know. I don't think there's really an advantage to any of the add-ons.
I think that there's some stuff from like cooldown manager tweaks that makes the cooldown manager better. I also think that nameplate add-ons are going to be an actual competitive gain. I mean, I think the current default nameplates are still pretty fucking bad.
So I think no matter what, add-ons are always going to be an advantage. Like as long as there's any kind of customization in the game, it is going to be an advantage. I just think the amount of that you gain from it has been lessened. right?
Oh, I agree with
the amount
that.
of delta between having add-ons and not having add-ons is a lot smaller now, because realistically, everybody perceives, receives, and will process information in different ways more easily. The base UI may be perfect for some people. There are still people in top race to world first guilds who use various portions of the base UI, and that works for them. But it doesn't work for everybody. And if you need to change something to, change your unit frame so it's a different color, or it has a gradient to it, or removing the portrait next to your unit frame because it just distracts you, that is technically an advantage. But realistically and arguably, that should probably just be part of the base game. So,
yeah, interesting though. I feel like a lot of the things that we talked about, it's been cool that we've all had a varying degree of like opinions about things. Like I think it really is like the new unknown, like waiting to see how things will play in Midnight.
all right.
Well, that's all I wanted to sorry. That's all I wanted to talk about. We also want to talk a little bit about the raid stuff, but Tarithal didn't do any raid testing, so we don't want to make him sit through and listen to us yap about the raid. So thank you very much for So thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate your insight with add-ons and having the good footage and talking about the bosses and stuff. We will be sure to leave socials or anything if you want them available in the description and stuff. If you guys want to go bug Tarithal for beta questions.
Oh yeah, I stream like once every 2 months. Hop in there.
Yeah, he also knows a lot about Tariq. If you have questions.
Oh yeah, he's like giga high rated in Fellowship too. Tariq content.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It was
All
fun.
right, yo man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, later, everybody. Yep.
All right, a very enlightening and insightful discussion with Tarithal. But we have some stuff to talk about. The main game mode of World of Warcraft, the raid. And Blizzard has made a catastrophic mistake here, Squishy. What happened?
So after you killed the first boss of raid testing, the last boss was available for raid testing, and it was a lot of guilds got 2 minutes before they were all forcefully ported out. But in that time, I actually think this worked to their advantage, as disappointing as it was, because it showed off what I think Blizzard can do without the computational add-ons. I call this a memory mechanic. I don't actually think the point of this is supposed to be a memory mechanic. So essentially the boss flashes 4 symbols: triangle, X, moon, and then diamond. And then 4 people get those symbols. And the boss is going to summon a laser beam and do a sweep around the boss, and you are supposed to line up and have those symbols in the exact same order.
Wait, that's so cool.
That's cool.
I didn't actually
And like, I actually think this, because like, Growl, I don't know about you, the rest of the raid testing kind of seemed like a lot of tank and spank plus like 2 mechanics.
Yeah, so
Like,
I did not all the bosses. Unfortunately, I missed this day when they did the accidental last boss testing, and I heard about it, and I'm like, oh dang, I wish I was doing it. But I did do all the other bosses, and it is what it is. Like I think a lot of the fights seemed okay. For me, I'm not one who's like, oh, this looks like a super cool dragon, or I really love this room. So to me, it's kind of whatever. Like some people might feel a certain way about the fights, but I was just kind of there like testing them. I did, yeah. So I didn't see this, but I don't know how I felt about they seemed okay. I don't know. I feel like some of them were a little bit undertuned. So basically, the one I remember that I had the most problem with is like, I think the first boss of the raid was like this tic-tac-toe boss, where like it's like spawning these portals that you have to kill, and like you can't let it get 3 in a row or it blows up. And I kind of felt like it could have been a cool mechanic, but it's surely wasted on the first boss. Because like the first boss of the raid is always like nothing, right? Like it's always just a pushover. Like whether it's heroic, normal, mythic, it's always a pushover for the people that rated that difficulty. And I kind of felt like they were like kind of cooking on a mechanic that could have been interesting, but there's no way the mechanic is going to be that interesting on the first boss. It seemed like something they could have used later and put more into it, but yeah. There were some okay bosses. I don't really feel that strongly about much that was going on, other than I just kind of was like kind of trolling and playing my M+ build because I didn't research what was good in raid, and I was getting absolutely owned by JB. That was like most of my raid experience.
I didn't have the opportunity to do any of the raid testing this week. I was busy with MDI and stuff like that. I feel like some of the sentiments that I've been seeing from most of the high-end players is like some kind of similar to most raid testings, where it's some of the bosses were good, some of the bosses were, left a little bit to be desired.
But yeah, to kind of go through it, like to go back to that last boss, I think this is the exact mechanic that they are talking about, where an add-on would prevent them from doing it. Because realistically, there's two parts to the mechanic. There's the memory part. There's also the, forming the line part. And just to kind of give the full context, the laser beam always went the same direction. It went counterclockwise or anti-clockwise. And whenever you fuck it up, it does damage to the raid.
Okay.
And it's supposed to leave a dot to them, but it just wasn't working because half the boss's mechanics weren't working. So like,
because it wasn't a boss available for testing.
To be clear, it wasn't intended for you to test this boss. So I'm someone that never pays attention. Do they never test the last boss on any difficulty, or what's the standard for last boss testing?
So last boss testing, we haven't been testing last bosses since the Jailer. The last one we tested was Sylvanas. Since then, Blizzard has been outspoken and been like, we're not going to test last bosses on Heroic or Mythic. We want them to be kind of, brought onto you whenever the patch launches, which is reasonable. With Keldanos, so there's 3 different raids. There's the 1 boss raid, the 6 boss raid, and the 2 boss raid. The final boss of the 2 boss raid and the final boss of the 6 boss raid, which is Keldanos, this is the last boss of Keldanos. So it's not like the final boss of what is supposed to be the first tier, but it's supposed to be the penultimate fight in terms of difficulty. And it was not supposed to be testable.
Yeah. But so, like I was saying, there's 2 parts. There's the memory part, which is remembering the order. I think the important thing here is, regardless if with add-ons or even with a simple chat box, somebody is just like, even if you didn't have add-ons, you're just going to type it in chat if you don't want to remember it, Or if you had an add-on, you would just have somebody click in like old Mechatorque. And somebody actually made that as an example to just prove that it could be done. So I don't think that's actually the difficult part of the mechanic. I think the part that the reason why Blizzard couldn't do this previously is the lining up part on the ground. Because you need to look at the other shapes and figure out where you go in this rotation. Right? Like, for example, if you need to make sure that the X is on your left and the diamond is on your right. But in a world with weak auras, you could just put down 4 markers on the ground the entire time, and the weak aura would say, go to marker 2.
It would say 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that too, which is
exactly.
You don't even need world markers on the ground. If you honestly just gave numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, that makes it a much easier mechanic than having to do the memory part of this.
Right.
But I think that the big difference is that a spinning kick?
Yeah, so basically the way this mechanic, I didn't cover this because basically there were 3 adds they cast. There's 9 stacks. Every time you kick, it removes a stack. If it casts, it gains a stack, and the boss is kind of immune until the stacks are gone.
Dude, I love how they were just they walk up, they see the end bosses there. I'm sure they were just like, what the fuck, pull the boss.
Pull up and pull the boss. That's so funny.
I think this is the exact type of mechanic that they need, and I think it's super cool. Some guilds will do this pretty natty. Some guilds will type the pattern in chat, and I think that's fine.
I like it. So I don't want to speak for Mythic because I don't, who knows what Mythic will be.
We'll get to Mythic after. There's a shade.
I like the thing because it's very quick, right? Like you could say, oh, well, actually, Growl, you could put markers on the ground and then use a weak aura where you type in the combo and then use a weak aura, blah, blah, blah. But it happens so fast that you're probably griefing yourself if you try to do that, right? Like if you're sitting here typing all of the things in a chat box or using a weak aura, I feel like you're not doing the fight optimally. Like just using brain and doing it. Like I'm pretty sure the way you'll do it is just use brain and then have a raid leader calling out the symbols. Like you just say them out loud. That way, in case you missed it or you weren't paying attention, you can listen instead of, you know what I mean? Have a BM hunter or something yell out the symbols. So you think you know the Mythic mechanic? All right, Squish, you missed.
Yes. So firstly, I want to say one thing. WoW is the only game I'm pretty sure that doesn't have anyone type anything in text chat for raiding. like I'm pretty sure most other MMOs, it is pretty commonplace to type something in raid chat to remember a mechanic for, memory's sake or for coordination's sake or something like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's just commonplace to type like the first letter. Like diamond, triangle, X, and moon. You just type DSXM. And everybody knows that's the order. How long does it take to type 4 letters? Less than a second. And suddenly you have the entire thing memorized in chat. That's something that's accessible to everybody. And I think that probably goes alongside Blizzard's mantra and like is probably acceptable to them.
Yeah, I've talked to some people that play Final Fantasy about this concept, and I sort of boil it down to WoW raiding, anything difficult in WoW raiding is a 20-man raid, and therefore isn't really reasonably puggable. Like, yeah, you kind of pug Mythic sometimes, but like most of those pugs are even in voice anyway. But in games like Final Fantasy or like Lost Ark that have smaller size raids, there is a little bit more reasonable of an expectation to find a group size of all people with similar skill to actually learn a boss and like pug it or whatever, right? And I feel like in games like those, strategies for pugs develop and become a meta, right? Like you sort of have people pushing the limits and figuring out how do we do this in a no comms pug? How do we do this in, people without voice? And it's like, that just doesn't happen in WoW, right? Like who's out here pugging, very few people are out here pugging Mythic with, only text or whatever. So you just don't see these strategies really getting developed. But they definitely could exist. Like, just like you said, it absolutely could be something that you come up with where it's not necessary. And also weak auras exist, right? I guess that's the other counter that may change now, right? Is why would you do a system to do Fractalus in text when you can just download liquid weak auras and then just stand where it tells you to? But that's going to change as well.
We'll see what happens next. And I think that's the really, really interesting part, right? Like, we will have to see what happens to the community with this type of mechanic. Are they going to type? Are you going to have a raid leader like put down world markers in the correct order? They match their shape. Both of those examples are possible, but the number one thing, and I think that why Blizzard's probably okay with that, is it's still a person doing that, doing the typing, doing the world markers. It is not a computer just telling you go to location.
I mean, somebody was like, isn't this going to make the 21st man in a raid better? And I was like, I don't fucking care if this makes the 21st man in a raid better. I think that the fact that weak auras were doing so much for you was way more of a problem than your raid leader. I think raid leaders are valuable in raids. Like, maybe it's a crazy take. I actually like the raid leader needing to call out shit. Okay, so what's up with the Mythic mechanic? Yes.
So in phase 3, so obviously we don't know the number or like the shapes or anything like that. It is a star augur mechanic, it appears.
Holy shit.
So the way it still shows you a pattern. It still looks like it shows you a pattern, and then multiple people get the symbol. And you have to clear the debuffs by touching each other in the same order that the boss showed you. So, 2 people get diamond, 2 people get moon, 2 people get triangle, 2 people get X. And if the boss shows you, moon, X, diamond, triangle, the 2 moons have to collide first, then the 2 X's, then the 2 diamonds, then the 2 triangles.
I'm gonna eat my words here, but because I'm raiding with Drogo's guild probably again. But I think that's actually really, really. Again, I just want to say it's really cool the way they handle it, because you don't necessarily need to communicate with that, right? Like, let's say it's moon, star, triangle, and you're triangle, right? You know exactly what you need to do when you need to do it based off of what you see on your screen, and no communication is needed, right? In theory. In theory, you can just look at your screen, use your brain, and do the mechanic. Will people do that? I don't know, but I think that's very, very cool. Very, very interesting. I am looking forward to how that plays out.
I think the big thing is, like, unlike Star Augur, these symbols are very clear, right? Like, Star Augur, the reason the nameplate shit came out is, like, those symbols are tiny, they're see-through, they're really hard to see, they're, like, grayed out. But these symbols on that encounter are very, very, very visible.
Dude, I forgot that everybody used a weak aura for augur.
Yep.
Where it was like, these are the people, do not run over them. These are the people that you touch.
But imagine doing Star Augur. Like, you have to do green first, then yellow, then red. Like,
as long as trying to remember Unot.
As long as there's enough
was
time for
similar
that.
to this, right?
Unot was similar, but it had weapons on the ground, and you would have to contact
or on people.
Yeah,
you had to go to a little location, not to people, but
yes.
you'd blow up other people, right? Yeah,
okay. Yes.
And if you ran over a player
That
with
is a great week owner. That
I
had.
saw that too.
Yeah.
Good old liquid reminders from Legion.
But yeah, I mean, it really just depends on how much time they give you. But it's kind of the same thing with Una. It's kind of the same thing with Sarg or Mechanic. The more time that is given to the players to be able to complete the mechanic, the more reasonable the mechanic feels to be able to play. It's something that if it shows up and you have 5 seconds to be able to complete the entire raid's worth of soaking, it's gonna feel awful. And if you have 15, it's gonna feel reasonable. Okay, maybe 15.
Yeah.
I don't know if 15 is the right number.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays. I don't know. I kind of like mechanics like this just because on harder bosses you really get like a feel for your other raid members and like you start to like I don't know, it just feels fun. I like interacting, and like thinking on the fly. One thing that comes to my mind, funny enough, is Sludge Fist, where remember how like if you did Sludge Fist, you're linked with somebody, and you like by the end of Prague, you know that guy, right? Like, where is he gonna stand? Like, is this guy an idiot? Like, is he gonna pay attention? Like, every time you get linked to somebody, like kind of how they're gonna play and what they're gonna do. And I found that like really, really cool. My guild told me that I fed on Sludgefist Prague. I don't remember that, but I remember that fight being like very, very cool.
It was. I mean, I think the big thing was it just feels like you're part of you're coordinating and working with other people. Because right now, to me in Raid, a lot of bosses just feel like you're doing your own thing. Like on Fractilis, you're not working with your team to build the walls. You're just periodically told to go to a location, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? But in the pre-patch, when add-ons are disabled early, what Blizzard has done is they've increased how long it takes for the walls to drop and how long it takes for the bricks to drop. So you're actually going to have to work with other people to figure out like where people are going and to make sure that people are in the right spot.
All right, Squishy and Growl, does this feel like Raid 2.0, like a new era of raiding, or is it more of the same, except it's just like removing some of the really fringe stuff?
Unfortunately, I think Liquid Weak Wars and text-to-speech stuff, to me, is always going to make it feel like this. Like, I feel like that stuff always being in the game is going to sort of dampen the fun a little bit.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's a new era, but I think we're going to see some things improving, I hope. It's just hard because we kind of talked about this a little bit in the interview, but there's so many moving parts changing, right? And so depending on like how you feel or what your narrative is could alter, the way that you think about things, right? Like, let's say there's a really, really easy boss, right? Like, oh, well, was this Blizzard's new design, or was this they sucked at balancing, or was this, oh, they let too many add-ons through? And then the same thing if the boss is too hard, like, oh, look, Blizzard ruined they don't know how to balance without add-ons, or if we had add-ons, this would have been better, or Blizzard messed up the tuning, or, oh, they should have, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can kind of spin anything so many different ways, and with so many things changing, it's kind of hard to tell, like, what actually is impacting it, but I don't know. I think things will be fun. I mean, I think it'll more or less be the same, but hopefully just slightly better, how it kind of is each expansion.
I think it's not really a 2.0.
Okay.
I think we'll just see new mechanics that they couldn't do before. Like, it's not like they haven't done new mechanics before. It's just a different type of new mechanic. Like, the Styx ball, that was new. It was a thing. I think, like, this type of mechanic is just going to be new as well. And I think that's basically it. I will say, I do think they might have, what's the word I'm looking for here? Declawed their raid encounters a little too much, possibly.
Oh, you think that they're too easy?
I think they might have gone too far in the wrong direction, but I'd prefer that than the other way, which is not declawing it enough.
I mean, we've been in a situation with raids for a while where raids have been way too hard, and it seems like Blizzard is stating because of add-ons, but like, I mean, to the point where people were complaining that Liberation of Undermine was too easy, and it's just like, no, hold on. We should have more raids that are about that difficulty. Do you think that they're too declawed in the sense that the encounters are no longer fun? Or do you think it's that they're going to be mechanically fairly simple?
It's hard to say. Like, because we've seen Heroic, and Heroic isn't necessarily made for me, right? But like...
Yeah, of course.
where Heroic was, I think we've been on record of the last like 3 seasons where Heroic's just super fun. It's a good time, feels like a good amount of mechanics, it feels fair. Great time. You get some loot. The testing that I saw, and obviously it's testing, they can change things. It felt a little barren.
Okay.
Like they gave you enough time to do things, which is great, but it also felt like it was missing something until March of Kel'Danas, of which those 2 fights at Heroic look fantastic. And things were going on. But we'll wait and see what Mythic has in store. It's not happening this week, it'll happen next week, so I don't want to be too hard on Blizzard for this yet, just because not for me, and they have time to fix stuff. They're in a new world here.
Any final thoughts before we get on out of here? I think we're gonna skip Q&A. I think we were like 2 hours 15 minutes is what I think we're at right now for this pod.
No, this is a good app. We can save some Q&A for next week.
All right.
Yeah.
GG's. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.